Good morning. You know how you go, I should stream today, and then you don't feel in the mood, and then you go, no, I got to show up. That's how I feel today. No, I'm kidding. It's all right. Hang on a sec. It's fine. Hang on. I'm just putting my coffee onto electronic devices. That's going to go fine. Let's see how we go. Yeah, so I'm trying to commit to doing a weekly stream again, but it's a little hard because I'm heading into exams, but that's okay. But I've had some time to think about like this whole internet and how it intersects this whole internet problem and how it intersects with politics. Now, it's weird because I started this channel like, God, I can't believe it's been 5 years and I'm this shit. But it was 5 years ago. Hang in there, kids. You too can be as good as me if you just... No, but I initially started this channel mostly because, well, first up, I needed to get camera skills and I wanted to learn how YouTube worked and how all of these things work, because I only understood YouTube in the abstract as a sort of consultant and as a user and as a, like, from the agency side. I'd never actually sort of set it up from scratch, and I thought, okay, I got to learn this skill. And then obviously this whole sort of culture wars thing where the internet sort of broke in two. That's been the main theme, like, since the beginning, which is just this around, like, my very first video was it was about a product called Brand Yourself, which was a reputation management tool where you can buy, where you log in, you authenticate with Twitter, and it tells you what your sort of reputation score is. And this was concerning because I saw this back in gosh, well, anyway, the date on that video was, I think it's what, 2017, something like 2018. Anyway, one of them. And my concern was what they were doing was sort of exposing just how sinister this idea of attaching scores or even reputation or anything like that. Like I saw that stuff where, you know, like people who are applying for jobs at the moment and just getting into the AI trash can without even getting sort of past a recruiter. No one answers. You apply for a job on LinkedIn, you fill it out and you just get instant rejected. You don't hear anything. I mean, some of those are fake jobs, but you know, a lot of it is that AI is sort of processing your application before a human sees it. Like we're seeing this everywhere, right? And Brand Yourself represented kind of quite a sinister version of that, which was that you could log in, you could clean up your tweets, clean up your old tweets. But when you actually found and saw what was flagged as potentially reputation damaging, like the mere mention of Trump or saying Hillary, or even something like mentioning drugs like Xanax or saying anything like that, alcohol, drinking, anything like that is in your tweets. And what Brand Yourself were doing was selling that stuff also as an enterprise product for people to look at people's social media reputation. So I saw this sort of convergence and sort of double dipping around things, tweets and content and social media content and all those things that we've put on the internet in good faith, thinking that you could live out loud, that you could be wrong out loud and all of that sort of stuff. It turns out that you're being like discriminated against for things that you might not even realize, like talking about the drugs you're on, talking about mental health, talking about, you know, like I said, drugs or alcohol, politics, anything like that. I was deeply worried that this tool, you go play with it. I think they've got a free plan. Because actually, the reason I started it, I can't remember what it was. There's a reason why I was playing with it. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the criteria for what they found to be sort of poor reputation, I think you'd be surprised about, you know, how this stuff is used and abused. But if you're struggling to find a job right now, there's a very good chance that it's because these tools are working in the background and just discriminating you, not even like quite overtly based on your social media footprint, because it allows them to crawl all of your tweets and sort of show mentions of drugs and alcohol, sex even. Like I've written jokes about, you know, even the mention of the word penis, anything like that is there for some sort of HR recruiter or even like, you know, background checks or background, you know, anything like that. If you've got to work for the government, anything like that where they're monitoring your online behavior and content, I think that you always think that that's going to be someone else. But I think you'll find that a lot of these filters are just creepy and somewhat not anything that is deemed as sort of human. Having a conversation on social media about anything, just, you know, having a few, talking a bit of shit posting in particular. People are watching that stuff, okay? And now that's all been fed into all of these AI recruitment tools. Now, the reason why I'm talking about that is because that's what sort of, sorry, she knows today. That's what prompted me to sort of start talking about these things around like how these things are misused, how platform, you know, obviously once I started to see Brand Yourself as a product, it represents just the worst abuses of user data. Like it shows itself as a helping tool for the user and then basically sells that shit to the enterprise on the other side of it, right? There's an enterprise plan where if you actually clicked a few pages and read beyond the tool, sorry, I'm just adjusting something. If you read beyond the tool, like itself, and actually looked at how they pitch it to enterprise customers, particularly HR and all those sorts of people, and background check firms and all that sort of stuff, I think you'd be very concerned about. Right. And so that just sort of that it wasn't that. I think there are a number of those tools going around. Obviously, Salesforce has bought Radian 6 back in like 2011 or 2012. It's been a thing for years and years and years. Okay, social media monitoring your footprint, all of that sort of stuff. That's why I'm always amazed at how some people retain their jobs. I really do. And I'm not saying they shouldn't, because I think that it's you should have the right to participate in the public square, so to speak, the corporately owned oligarchic square, without that your employer discriminating against you in that regard. And I think that that's something that sort of raised alarm bells. And I started to talk about, because obviously I noticed that the internet was breaking, right? Social media, the idea of social media, while a good one, was naive, right? If you think about it, a forum where anyone in the world can sign up, be anonymous, do whatever they want, with the ability to continuously bump that forum, doesn't end well, okay? People just are constantly sort of, bringing up old wars over and over again. It's basically like the old never-ending forum dump. And, I saw all this sort of happening, and I was like, okay, this isn't going so well. And then I saw Brand Yourself, and I thought, okay, well, should we find ourselves in a situation where the government gets its act together in terms of any IT project, or again, there's lots of things to unpack and lots of thoughts at once, as you can see. But it always, the potential for abuse, and especially in terms of, this notion of sort of techno-fascism, whatever, let's just use that as shorthand for now. Techno-feudalism, techno-fascism, whichever term you feel most comfortable with, attach the word techno and go from there. Okay. It was always a concern that existed in the abstract. Like the culture wars, it was always kind of, oh, well, the internet's not real life, the internet's not real life, the internet's not real life. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are about to find out that the internet is, in fact, real life. And they're about to see in meat space what it is like to be specifically on something like Twitter when you are someone like me, or LGBT, women, minorities, anyone gets it, but some groups get it more than others. But I think that even those who think that the internet's not real life, the internet has come to real life, and you're going to start seeing that more and more. And I find that that's where, like, I keep thinking about how, well, first of all, I've been struggling for, hang on, let me digress. I've been struggling for an end, sort of a time anchor. Okay, so an anchor of time for the book that I've been working on for a few years about this stuff, about how the internet broke, right, through my own experiences. And it kept moving, and I couldn't find a point in time with which to sort of, because it's a book that moves sort of around in time and back and forth and sort of links bits and pieces, right? That's the way it's been written, as a sort of, I'm not a big fan of writing a memoir, but it was really the only format that I could make it engaging, right? But my problem was that I didn't have a solid anchor in time. And when I first tried to finish it off in 2020, because I've been writing it for 10 years, when I first started in 2020, I think it was still not there yet. It was still in the middle. And it's very hard to find an end point when you're sort of writing a book that's about things that are unfolding. That actually, yeah. So I think that the other day I had that realization that I think the internet definitely coming to real life in the form of Trump getting a second term with Elon Musk. Like I said, give it a month. But with all of these things, it seems like a natural sort of endpoint where I could think I can officially say, well, this is now a eulogy. It started like when I first started writing this book, it was a celebration of what was possible, sort of mourning having lost a lot of the ideal stuff. But now I think that it's actually just a eulogy, and we are. I'm just reflecting and grieving on in real time over what we were supposed to have versus what we actually have. And I know that I'm waffling, but a lot of it is because I started this channel with the idea, sort of alerting people to the problem of data and alerting people to the this culture war thing that wasn't just fun and games. It's not just the comment section. It's not just entertainment, but it does have actual real world consequences. And I've had this conversation quite a few times over the years where people were saying, well, Twitter's pointless. I'm not on it. I don't read it. Just get off. It's like, okay, you might not be on there, but that doesn't mean that it's not important. And I should have paid more attention to that in the moment, because it's out of sight, out of mind. Like a lot of people are just, it's not in front of their face. They don't really necessarily care about it like that. And that's it's quite unfortunate and sad. But at the moment I'm frustrated because all of the things that we were talking about over the years, like if you go back, like obviously I don't get everything right and I'm a bit of a dickhead sometimes, but for the most part I've been on the right track and just not been able to articulate what I thought was happening. And I think anyone who has words or coined terms for what's happening right now is or thinks they have answers, they don't, because I don't. And I'm not saying that I'm necessarily an expert in everything, but I think it's time. I'm just trying to think about what words I'm trying to say. A lot of people are going to sort of rewrite things. Okay, they're going to attempt to rewrite their own role in a lot of this stuff with the culture wars and online, and they'll go away and they'll start deleting all this stuff and they'll retcon everything and rewrite, try to rewrite the story. And I am unsurprised by a lot of this stuff because I was paying attention. Wasn't paying attention enough to how uninterested people are in the plight of others. Okay, that one I'll never get used to. Okay, I'll never get used to. Again, I was in all of these sort of tech circles and corporate circles and academic circles, all these things, and I could not get anyone to see a problem with this stuff. I've talked about this before, how I've been in the same room as, CEOs of, Woolworths, Fairfax, fucking, whatever. And I've sat there and watched them just say the quiet parts out loud about how they, want to manipulate behavior and how data can be used to manipulate consumer behavior. And I objected at the time. This was part of like why I had noticed that everything had gone to shit, because I saw the writing on the wall, because I'd been in those rooms. I'd seen them talking about big data and how it can be used. Like obviously, there's a subtext of we're helping the customer, and there's always, they never overtly say the things that they're going to say. But in insurance and banking, it used to be called, I don't know if it is called this anymore, but because the buzzword changes and then everyone catches wind of something that's creepy, so they create a new buzzword that's anyway. That's just a thing. But it was called life events, and basically the goal was for the bank to have all of your data so that they can sell banking and insurance products to you at certain life events, and they know that about you, and they can, offer you tailored insurance packages and all of that sort of stuff. And it's like, well, and I just went, you shouldn't be doing that. No. And Every single person in that room did not understand why I objected to this conversation. I actually resigned from that thing after what I saw, because I was just disgusted at the just lack of thought and the lack of hindsight. Lack of foresight, absolute lack of ethics. And it wasn't even because they were evil. It was the most creepy banality of evil situation that I've ever seen in my life, to be honest. It was all nice people in suits, hyping technology, and not one of them actually thought, hey, a massive corporation that controls people's finances maybe shouldn't be tracking them and their lives from birth. Like, the fact that nobody in the room objected to it, or nobody in the room was a big mouth and objected to it like me, and they just kind of went, oh, well, what are you going to do? Because they got to get their job done and meet their KPIs, which, again, this is stuff that I saw that was, what, 2013? God, that was a long time ago. But this was, Twitter hadn't even really fully matured until, 2012. So we're talking, like they were very early to start wanting to exploit this stuff. And I know that I'm taking a sort of long way round, but I've just always sat there and been absolutely gobsmacked. And I don't know whether this is just an Australian thing, because Australians tend to be pretty fucking selfish like that anyway. It's like, if it's in my backyard, that's all I only care about it if it's in my backyard, right? I don't know whether that's more of an Australian thing or a, America. I don't know. Anyway, but that room, when I objected, it was very strange, because at the time there were a couple of people who came to me afterwards, and because I used to sit on panels and stuff like that, and people would come to me afterwards and they'd go, thank you for saying something, I was thinking it. Thank you for saying something, I was thinking it. And so I thought naively that I would run an agency that doesn't do that. So, I've never just run on doing tech ethically. That really didn't survive. Like, it couldn't sell people. Like, when it came, and that was another disappointment, another cut, right? Which was that when, oops, sorry, I knocked my mouse, hang on. When confronted with like the sort of even a tiny benefit, like an email address with a name and a phone number, like it's not even a lead, just a junk spreadsheet full of crap that might not even, work. When faced between that and their ethics, they choose the number and the lead or the whatever. I absolutely underestimated that, that people would care about ethics. They say they do, but there isn't a real point in tech where people will go, nah. Like for years, up until recently. I think AI has sort of, the LLMs, sorry, not AI, have made people go, this is a bridge too far. What you're doing is too far. And I think Elon Musk, for better or worse, has shown what I have been trying to say for some years about how much control someone has over discourse, and especially the data, like how people can be nudged in a certain direction. Like it worked, didn't it? Nudging Twitter towards what X is today, definitely the algorithm that was fed to you in the lead up to the election, it worked, didn't it? And that's hard to come back from. For me, it's difficult. And I know I'm waffling, but for me, it's because I don't really know where to go from here, because I have been sounding the alarm and sounding the alarm and sounding the alarm and sounding the alarm and sounding the alarm. And obviously, I came to the end of that and decided that I was going to, I think I needed to be on the side of practicing law and fighting some of this stuff. I have to be part of the fight somehow, but in a useful way. I don't think this is a useful way. I think I just I like it because I like the camera stuff, and I don't like being on camera, so I have to keep sort of working on those skills and keeping those skills current and all of that sort of stuff. Contrary to what's gone on so far today, it generally helps you speak better and all of that sort of stuff. So, but it's good. But so I like this, but I also don't want to be contributing anger anymore. Like, there's only so much that, like, every part of all of this is designed to exploit anger, and that's the opposite of what I want. And look, I know I'm not going to get any, like, I'm not going to be exploding into fame anytime soon, right? I know that I'm not going to be making money doing this, okay? That's fine. I do it for the fun of it, and it's not an issue. But the whole thing, in order, again, when I started the YouTube channel, I didn't quite understand sort of how how it would be being the face, being the creator, being the talent. I understood obviously the technical sides of things. I know you have to optimize things and, create thumbnails and all that stupid bullshit. I know how to do SEO because I ran an agency for so many years. But I realized that optimizing it for that does something to you as a person. And, for those that can put on that show and generate and use the conflict and thrive on that sort of thing, I'm past that point in my life where I'm angry, like, all the time. I'm sitting back seeing this election and I'm annoyed that I didn't want to be right when I was warning people about these this force of sort of unholy influences that are sort of, I'm pretty sure every single person in this fucking thing has their own Kiwi Farms thread at this point. But I also know that I don't want to be working in an area. I don't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to even, see, the thing is, I don't even want to have to pretend to be angry anymore. It's not even about, because I'm not really angry. If anything, I'm pretty level-headed, and when something happens, especially when things are really real like they are at the moment, I tend to be the level-headed one and the one that says it's going to be okay. Do you need anything? Can I help? What can I do? What can, I run errands or do whatever. That's more who I am. I'm more pragmatic than I am angry. And I do find that there is this pressure to, well, first of all, get to the point straight away, Taya, okay? Which I will never do. It's just not what I do. It's not how my brain works. I have to warm up. Like, not everybody, despite your addiction to political influencers who have been hired by talent agencies or are like people who failed as comedians and actors, some people are just normal people without media training who have had to figure it out. I'm never, ever going to get straight to the point unless I've edited 30 minutes out of my talk, unless it's edited, which I will do some more of. Okay, I have been doing a little more of that, but for the streams, I do enjoy streaming. It's just people have said, that they like having me around and just feeling like I don't have all the answers, even when, what's funny is, and I know this is like, it's a symptom of, no, it's kind of how the Dunning-Kruger effect works, but, like, I don't feel qualified at all to tell you what's going to happen. I am more qualified than the vast majority of people who have opinions on the elections and stuff, okay? In that content ecosystem, I'm actually probably, there's only a handful of people who actually have degrees in any of this shit to begin with. And I have consulted, and most of the people that I look to honestly don't know what's going to happen. But I do know what got us here, and a lot of it was just rage. And I understand why people are turning off their political content, right? Especially on the left, because they've been, well, not left, lib stuff, right? Because I think people well, are rightly angry and afraid, and it's okay to be afraid, and it's okay to not know what's going to happen, but it's also important to not catastrophize. Like I tend to catastrophize quite a bit, but that's because I don't do it as much anymore, because you get to a point where that kind of thinking affects you in your mental health and stuff like that. So I'm just, I've had I've had a lot of shit in my life, a lot of trauma, a lot of pain, a lot of, stuff that's like more than my fair share, right? And I used to be really angry, okay? I used to be really resentful. I still am sometimes, okay? It's you don't just suddenly heal from these things, especially when that stuff is from birth, okay? So, it's like it's one of those things where you don't know any other way other than to be angry and to only rely on you. No, think that you can only rely on you, okay? Like I used to be very much a person who never wanted help from anyone, never wanted to lean on anyone, never wanted to ask for anything. And, that was to my detriment. I think because a lot of friendships also didn't feel, because I was, it's been difficult. Like I've had a difficult life. Okay. And even though it might not look that way, it's called not sharing everything. I see how I'm sitting there umming and ahhing and going, oh shit. Okay. But one thing I've learned is that you have to move through anger. You can't continue to be angry. When you're grieving, like whether it's big and small, or whether it's something huge that you don't know if you're going to survive, or if it's something minor, like it's, someone cutting you off in the street, you need to go through a full process of grief, anger, and you need to come out the other side. There needs to be some something productive to come out of anger. Otherwise, it is just people are just caught in these anger loops. Okay. And I know that I'm not using any clinical language. I'm not doing anything. There are answers for all of these things, and it's all very boring. But that's where I think that's where my dilemma lies with a lot of this stuff, is that the people who watch me, I don't know, it's like I don't want to get angry all the time. I'll go on a rant, but I don't want to have to pretend to be angry either when I'm not, in order to satisfy whatever, right? Like obviously I have a fair number of people who are watching, but not like nothing a lot. I don't have zero watching. There's about 40 at the moment. Okay, so it's not, it's not tiny, but it's not massive either. But I think that the reason why a lot of people are just going to shut off from this kind of stuff is, I hope that it's because that they realize that this content's not good for them. That I hope that at the end of the day that a lot of people are switching off from various content creators because anger is not actually changing or fixing anything. Like anger can't change. Being angry about something, it might motivate you for a time to, get off your ass and do something, but it's not a good. When you're in fight or flight, you're not really thinking very clearly for a start. You gotta. There's no point in being angry about things that you can't control, you can't predict. Like you can obviously go on data and what you think might happen, and of course it's always good to be prepared for like worst case scenario and all that sort of stuff. Like for me, I do tend to just prepare myself for the worst case scenario, and then but not in a way that I am afraid of it. Does that make sense? I think people are just being angry and getting stuck there. And I think that that's the role that these influencers play, is that they kind of keep you stuck in, like, whether it's like the one viral video they had, they're stuck doing that one. It's like a weird, like a needle for people's personalities. And like, think of a record player and you get some dust and it's like, they they go viral and they have to go, they that's the thing that they have to do every day now in order to survive. And you get that sort of one tagline. You end up being known for one thing. I've always found that so crazy, that there are people who are like niching as a concept, niching down on YouTube and being forced to pick one thing that you want to keep doing for years and years. And it's like, oh my God, no human is going to be mentally healthy without sort of a diverse experience. And like, what the fuck? Anyway, but this whole concept of niching on the internet, it's like, well, you end up stuck being like, and this is one of the things, I wasn't going to talk about this, but it's actually a good example, which is someone like Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, right? Started when she was younger, and she's changing her mind on some stuff. She's drifting, and, people get older, and again, for better or worse, I think that, this we all know that this I'm leaving the left thing is like pretty transparent, right? But at the same time, people also do grow. People move forward. People make mistakes. That's why I generally just work out loud. Like, even if I feel like it's like, oh, it's not going so great and I'm just waffling or whatever, I'll sit here and I'll go, and I'll say the wrong thing and I'll say the wrong word and I'll go, okay, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? That's how most people are. And I think that, like YouTube in general, like, it really, like the way that stuff works is really sinister. Because no one is one thing. No one just does one thing. People have good things about them, shitty things about them, shitty things they've done that they wish they hadn't, whatever. People misspeak. They make mistakes. They sometimes learn from their mistakes, but often fail to learn from their mistakes. And the problem with YouTube and this niching side of things is that I think it's done something where people expect everyone to be one-dimensional and to be one thing, like whether it's your job. Now, again, this is like, this is what happens, right? This is the result of sort of, what's it called? Scientific management and all of those sorts of things, is reducing everything down into sort of units and everyone sort of working on one task, basically preparing us to be robots until the robots take over. Like, that's sort of the end result of these approaches to corporate life. But I'm seeing that everywhere in the way that that people aren't allowed to just be people anymore. They have to be, like, even that, I see people hammering, I don't know why you can't have one Twitter account and tweet about lots of different things. People used to create 5 or 6 things, one for their business, one for their dog, one for this. And it's like, well, maybe the problem is that people need, I'm concerned that people need things to be predictable in order to keep them engaged. And it's almost like a weird, it's very strange. Anyway, I know that I'm fucking talking shit. Anyway, hang on. What a load of old shit! But anyway, I can't even remember what my point was. Oh yeah, but when I first started this, I started to go, this stuff is way more sinister because at that time, this was even before Cambridge Analytica, all of this sort of stuff, all of these dark campaigns were sort of taking place. This was, this was just, people were just starting to get that idea, right? That they could harvest and manipulate these social media platforms. And I just don't know how to fix it. The only thing that I can think of is all of the solutions that I can think of to this problem involve things that I oppose on their face. Like they're things that it's like, well, anonymity doesn't work. Obviously, the biggest problem with the internet is people having anonymity, okay? But it doesn't work. And so that's in conflict. Things like, I think that I do think that people should be ID verified to use social media. I think there should go, I'd go one step further and say there should be a social media license. Because in real life, you don't get to go just driving around on the freeway bumping into whoever the fuck you want. And, when you're out on the roads, you have to have a license and you have to obey the road rules. And social media, because it has such broad reach, it's very, it's akin to that. You're out in public and people are being forced to you're out there streaking in public, opening your fucking trench coat, crashing into things, and people have no real recourse for that, especially now. Especially now. And it's like that, again, that comes up against it comes up against a lot of things that I would have been pretty strict in, not strict, I've been pretty firm in supporting anonymity and openness as a rule, right? And I find that it's very weird. No, not weird. I'm just saying words. I got to learn to just be silent without filling it with fucking words. Just let it sit in the silence. That's part of the reason why I waffle, is because it's like, I'm thinking. But what if I'm wrong? What if we are wrong about anonymity? And I think we have tried it. It's worked somewhat. And when I talk about that, I don't mean you can't have anonymity on the open web. I'm talking about social media, where corporations are in control, like very large and very powerful corporations have a lot of control over the discourse, over what is said. Maybe, again, I have mentioned this before, maybe we need to accept that not everyone should be on the freeway when they're drunk driving and, underage, don't have a license, haven't done a basic course. And again, it's like, well, I don't. See, this is the problem with policy, is that something has to give. You have to find a way forward and have a compromise with people. And I don't feel that this stuff is working. And I haven't felt it for a long time. And I'm quite happy to go, well, maybe I'm wrong about that. Not just like dig my heels in and go, no, anonymity at all costs, no. And it's like, well, no, because what other solution do you have? You can't just oppose things without offering something else. And I think that that's the problem with sitting in anger and sitting in these emotional states all the time. And that's going to get worse now, is this refusal, this sort of doubling down thing. People don't want to admit that they might be wrong or that there might be a hole in their argument. And you shouldn't be arguing unless you've also got an alternative position on offer. So it's one thing like this, under 16s social media ban. Waiting on the report before I talk about it because I like to read it beforehand. Jokes on me. But again, people just knee-jerk react. And I've seen it. They go, no, note all of it. Well, you're not a productive person because it means that you're denying the problem exists and that you're not open to solving the problem. And if you don't believe that there is a problem, then you can't be reached because you're the one who's denying, anyway. But you can't just object to things outright like a toddler without at least coming out the other side with an idea or a solution. Like, I think I've always been, I've talked about this before, destroyers versus builders, right? I tend to be more of a builder. And there's an awful lot of people who are just destroyers. They'll wreck something just because they can and because they're transactional and they're mad at the world or whatever, and they feel entitled to wreck other people's stuff. That's not how civil society should run, for a start. But it's also not how social media should run. And again, I'm not saying not to have access to the open web or, essential services or banking or whatever. And again, it doesn't make you an authoritarian or someone who actually advocates for authoritarian or surveillance or anything like that. For just merely putting it out there that we might be wrong on anonymity and that we might need to find ways forward. And that's what the government's trying to do, is that they need to solve these problems. They can't just ignore a problem because it's too hard. You can't, that's how we end up here with climate change and all of those sorts of things. It's like, you can't just ignore it. It's not whether you believe in it or not, it's here. And it's the same thing with the Trump presidency. It's like, you got to move forward. You got to find a way to move forward and accept that this is how it is and have a plan and try to work through the grief, because it's going to be tough. And that's why I sit there and it's like, well, I don't want to be feeding the anger online. For a start, I'll make a joke. I mean, again, that's subjective. Some people would say that I'm the worst person in the world because I said, Xanax. Okay, that's what it's amazing. You look at that and it's like, no wonder I'm shadow banned everywhere. If that's what they think of me, it's called a joke, dickhead. But that's all done by an AI, by corporations who don't give a shit about your rights, and But you can only have digital rights if you're first of all, if you're a human and you are who you say you are, you're a natural citizen. Only citizens have rights, and corporations, if you're in America. But you get what I'm saying. It's just, I don't know how to move forward with the internet, knowing what it is. So knowing what got us here now. Anger has to be off the table, okay? It's very entertaining. It can be extremely uncomfortable when it's spontaneous. It can be, you can be productive sometimes in terms of getting people motivated. But I think that what we're seeing is an overall fatigue at anger and nobody working sort of towards solutions. I've seen a lot of people, and I fall into this myself. I tend to I don't actually, well, no, what you see is the rants and the stuff, and then I go away and write stuff that's, later on. And I need to be more solution focused myself in terms of what I put out there as well. So, because it is easy to sort of name the problem and analyze things to death, but at some point you need to come up with some sort of plan, or you need to move past the anger, because anger is only productive for so long, and then you crash. You need to find a way to integrate the fact that this is where the world is. In terms of my own work, right? I'm not going to be I think with tech law, I think it's only going to get more and more I don't want to say lucrative, but I don't think I'll be hurting for work, and I don't think I'll be hurting for any work anytime soon after, I get through the initial stuff. Can't remember what my point was. Oh well, doesn't matter. But yeah, I just don't. I don't know what the answer is, because outside of YouTube and it's like, even again, Blue Sky's going through it now. I'm on Blue Sky. You check there, the thing is there. But they're going to go through the same thing, because anger and shit posting and all of that sort of stuff shares better. And it's not about whether it's politics or not. Like, even on Threads, I got like people shouting at me over a fucking Starbucks like launch, because I was like, yeah. And it doesn't matter what the issue is. Like, if you go in and look on, food YouTubers and cooking YouTube, people are at war in the comments constantly, just being horrible to each other. And I don't know. I think maybe you should need a license to be able to drive on the freeway. I'm coming around to it. I'm not, again, with every fiber of my being, it hurts me to even think that it should happen. But I don't see any other solution, because it's going to get worse. Like the role that this election played. Now, again, this is something that it's not just, the government issues a license or whatever. It's like they don't tell you where to drive either. But they make you stay on the road, right? You can't just go driving up and fucking around and bumping into people and drinking and driving and doing all that sort of shit, okay? And there's people who don't think that they should have a driver's license either, and or drive drunk and all those things, and those people kill people, and then those people go to jail, okay? Now, that is far from saying that you need to criminalize certain parts of this, right? I just don't see any actual solutions other than no. And it's like, well, that's not an answer, because we keep getting here. I've seen this coming for years, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. And honestly, oh, that's right. I was thinking about, like, in terms of tech law, how it affects me, which is that because most of the tech companies are headquartered in the United States, we are at the mercy of the United States, a lot of like regulation of tech. And one thing's for sure, that's not happening in the United States. So what we have to do now is regulate around the United States, which that's fucking tricky. Okay. But this is one of those things where you need to get creative and go, well, you know what? Maybe we're forced to have to capitalism our way out of this problem, because that's the only framework we have at our disposal right now, without like something pretty bad going down, right? So how can you you get what I'm saying? Like, you got to start thinking outside of just, oh, no, this is my worldview. No, 20 years ago, I had this view and I believed that, and it was every fiber of my being, but it didn't work out that way. And you have to face it as it is and see it as it is and find a way forward. And so that's sort of where my brain is at, is how do I go forward from here? Because I don't, obviously, I'm not going to be growing the YouTube channel. It's not within my skill set. Okay. I enjoy it. It's fun. I like hanging out. I do like producing media and that sort of stuff. I like talking to people. But it's not really something that I am willing to do, because I know how the algorithm works, which is that I should either go and do a cooking channel, or be willing to accept like that you've got to be angry and you've got to stoke anger. And if you look at what's happening there, it's not working. It doesn't work. And tech has gotten, like the algorithms on YouTube and those things have gotten sophisticated enough that they can tell sentiment. And so the fact that they're still pushing this angry shit to people, I don't know. I don't know, because I've had a persona for so many years that was like built around snark and dark humor and all of that sort of stuff. And it's like that hasn't helped either, has it? And so for me, it's like, and I'm sure that a lot of people are thinking this too. And if you're actually a grown up, you think about your own role in things and take responsibility for that. And it's a big part of supporting like a lot of these snarky blogs and defending speech of people that I definitely don't agree with, and I still think they have a free speech right, for sure. But do they have a right on social media? Like, the thing that we haven't clarified is social media like a public space or not? Because there's rules around how you can conduct yourself in public no matter where you go. If you're in a private like venue or you're in a restaurant, the restaurant's rules, okay, but how you conduct yourself in public is also regulated, right? And so that's something that we haven't really reconciled is social media sort of a private space or a public space, okay, in terms of legally. I'm oversimplifying, but I'm just saying. And the fact that they're owned by massive, powerful global corporations with shit tons of money and can basically, take on any government with unlimited money, that doesn't help. But it does affect my work, because I sit there and I go, well, where can I be of most value as a lawyer when it comes to this sort of thing? Because we know that the United States is going to not they're definitely not going to be. I doubt they're going to be regular. They're not going to be. Let me think. What they will do. Actually, hang on. Let me think. Let me think here. They will try to regulate the internet. But it will be in their own. I think it will just be a mess. Okay, let me think. I think it will just be a mess for a while. Right. I think we've got to learn to self-govern a little bit, like, and because I think it's going to get bumpy. I think it's going to get bumpy between the platforms. Sorry, I had a thought, and then I kind of, do you ever do that thing where you say something, you're about to say something and you go, I don't believe that. No. Do you ever do that? And I do that a lot. Well, you stop talking shit, Tate. But I think that in terms of regulation, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think that what's going to have to happen is that if you don't want to get swept up in this stuff, or I don't know, you want to have a better life, a happier life, you'll detach from a lot of this stuff. And watch sort of, I don't know how to do political content or the type of content that I do without being angry. Or outrageous, because people don't pay attention. It's just, I mean, people don't pay attention anyway, to me. But I'm just saying generally, people watch things to affirm their worldview. Like, I try to watch as much as I can bear across the board, right? And it's not easy hearing these things, and it's like, but you've got to know your enemy to be able to defeat them. You got to know what their arguments are going to be. Otherwise, you can't defeat them if you don't know what you're dealing with. And I think we know what we're dealing with for the next few years. And I'm speaking around it again. This is the nature of YouTube, right? Which is, get your fucking videos taken down if you say certain things and certain patterns and shit. And it's like, I can't be bothered. I'm just not invested enough in this channel or these things to go through all this fucking hassle. I just want to record a thing and it be on there and it stay there so that people who want to watch it can watch it, and people who don't. I don't need to do any of this like algorithmic fucking like stuff. I don't want to. It's part of the reason why I name the streams the way that I do, because they won't get picked up. And I find that frustrating, of course, because that's part of me going, no, I don't want to. I don't want to do those stupid headlines. I don't want to do clickbait and clips and fucking, it's not my job. I don't have a full-time, it's like I don't have the resources. Most of those people pay someone to do all of that shit for them, and I can't be asked. So I just turn up and I'll stream. I'll talk if people want to talk. Otherwise, I don't care. Whatever. I'm just here to talk. I'm very old school on the, like, you can tell I'm an old schooler because I just sit here and I'm like, here's my website. Here's a list of things I like. And it's like, I just want a space for me. And it's, if you want to watch, you want to watch. If you don't, you don't. Same thing with Twitter. Same thing with whatever. Now, obviously, the fact that I'm shadow banned is annoying when I actually want to promote something. But that's the cost of being a terrible person who uses the word Trump and penis every so often. On brand yourself, and therefore my reputation is poor. But it's fine. You got to, I think it's just about weighing it up. And like, I don't know, I'm just not angry. Like I'm just not okay. I'm an annoying person. I am an obsessive person. I am a bit of a smart ass, and I don't take things too seriously, but I'm not angry. Like in terms of, I don't feel the emotion of anger. And if anyone's entitled to feel resentment about various things, it's me. Like I do, obviously the fact that the world is this unfair and unreasonable and cruel is something that I will never be able to never be able to justify or reconcile. And I think that you start to lose your soul as soon as you start to think that this world is okay. Like it can be okay in small ways. It will be a mixed blessing. And we don't know what's going to happen. Because at the end of the day, like so much of the media that we consume is, I don't even know what the fucking truth is anymore. And I go, I don't know what the truth is anymore because I am often wrong and I believe certain people. And then I spend all my time reading, several 100-page reports that other people won't read and they don't listen to me on. And I take things on face value in areas that other people are experts or claim to be experts in, and I don't really think about it. You can't possibly do all of that work. And, anyone who's sort of, streaming 12 hours a day and has an opinion on everything, like I think you should be definitely switching off from those people because it's not physically possible to know anything in detail and do this work. Usually in a news, like in a traditional TV setup, that person has producers and writers and editors and like it's often a team of writers, journalists. Like if it's the news or current affairs, they've got like journalists who are out shooting each segment every day, and you've got all of that sort of thing. And you've also got researchers, like even professors have research assistants. Lawyers have paralegals. Like everyone, it takes a village. And at some point, everyone thought that, I don't know whether it's an American culture thing that's come from America and imported or whether it's just capitalism that does it. Like I try not to reduce it down to one thing. But this idea that there is going to be one person who has all of the answers, like it's like that people are just desperately looking. It's like even if you're not in a cult, you're primed to be in one because you're just looking for one person to provide you with the answers that you need. And like that goes from being like expecting a partner or a husband or wife or whatever to be your whole life, your children to be your whole life, Twitter to be your whole life, all various influencers that you follow and that, you're a fan and you make them your whole life. And it's like, that's dangerous because this is how something like Trump, over periods of years, you've got these fan and anti-fan shit dynamic going on where you've got people saying stuff, people opposing it, double down, anti-fan, double down. Okay. For every person who is like public on the internet, there's a community of people if you're lucky enough, you see it on a subreddit. Otherwise, it's, you've got WhatsApp groups, if you put yourself out there online at all, you're going to have a group, if you know about it or not, okay? I just assume that shit goes on, okay? But, you know, there's a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group or fucking people that are sitting there hating on you because they've got nothing better to do. That's part of it. But I don't want to feed that. Like, I don't want to feed hate. And the problem is that, like, people are going to hate you anyway. It doesn't matter. So yeah, this is my life. The thing is that people are going to, you can't live a life where you want everyone to like you. It's just, it's not going to happen. It doesn't happen. Okay. It's just, you just need to be okay with being disliked. Even if they misunderstand, you just need to just let go of that stuff, show up and hope for the best. And that's what I try to do. But I also have realized that I don't want to feed anger. Like, I noticed, like, the Blue Sky video that I did the other day in the comment, and I was like, there was no need to be angry about what I said. Like, I was making fun of some people, but a lot of what I was saying was actually based in fact and based on 30 years of knowledge on my part and experience on my part. And I had some quite substantive things to say. Just because you don't want to hear it doesn't mean that it wasn't like some tough love, right? Which is that Blue Sky will pretty much end up the same as Twitter because it's got the same functions on it, okay? And because user behavior doesn't change. People will bully. That's just how it goes, okay? And even if it's not on your platform and you don't allow it, people will create WhatsApp groups where they screenshot. That we have to acknowledge that that's going to happen. But cults are forming in those little groups and they are getting out of hand, and there needs to be like a legal framework where you can, it needs to work in line with like everything we know about the rule of law. Like it's just not, I just don't see how anyone thinks that it's, I mean, again, I think it's always about trade-offs, right? Speech and, you know, freedom and security and that sort of stuff. It's always a trade-off, right? So if you do any kind of security studies or any kind of policy work, a lot of it is like the less shit option, okay? Most of it is about picking the less shit option, especially internationally, right? And trying to find sort of compromise. And the role of the courts is to try and sort of thread that needle quite specifically. But generally, we should be looking to, you know, I don't know. It's just, I don't understand why people feel the need to be horrible on the internet with no regard for anyone else. Like, okay, because, you know, you've got the 10% of fuckwits, right? The rule of the world, okay, the fuckwit rule. Don't be a fuckwit. And I just don't understand how you can't see the parallels between something like the being on the freeway and being on, if you've got like, you know, some hectares of land, no one's coming after you if you get behind the wheel and be a fuckwit on your own property. I mean, obviously, if you're negligent and someone gets hurt, then obviously, you know, that could be an issue. But at the same time, I don't see how anonymous, open social media, where things can spread around the world at rapid pace, there needs to be a place where people have to conduct themselves appropriately, and that should be attached to real names and stuff. I just don't see how it can hold otherwise, which sucks. But again, that's just being open to being wrong, right? And I think that maybe, again, it doesn't mean that you can't be anonymous elsewhere. It doesn't mean that you can't find secure apps. But I think a lot of the problems, and again, it's just once they, and most of the regulations are focused on very large online platforms, right? So forums, messaging apps, those sorts of things are largely exempt, right, from a lot of these things. No one's looking to police the internet per se, but these large platforms do have a massive responsibility. And they're not going to I very much doubt that they're going to see regulating anytime soon, and Musk definitely not. It's a spanner in the works in terms of like getting tech. Like it kind of feels inevitable, to be honest, that this is that we're in the dark timeline of like the brand yourself thing that I saw at the, like I mentioned before, where they could, you just say one word and you can just be unpersoned, and you can't find work, you can't get a rental, because you're just blacklisted. Like, we've got this social score now. And I know that, again, this is where it's in conflict, because I know that anonymity is sacred for that reason, but we're also not anonymous because they're doing all of the data matching and stuff. Like, very few people are truly anonymous. Like, part of the reason why I just continue to do stuff with my like full name, and always have, was because I conduct myself in a way that any ordinary person should be able to conduct themselves. I've never done anything. I don't harass people. What you see is what you get, for the most part. Obviously, you see me when I'm just talking normally and not fucking whatever. I'm a bit more, bit less animated offline. And obviously I exaggerate and make a few things up and tall stories and that sort of stuff. But for the most part, sort of what you see is what you get. Nothing like, sinister. You won't see me in a chat room bitching out someone. I got too much to do. Like, I've never had any role in any of those groups, and I think that's why I don't get invited to them, because probably because they're about me, but also because people know I won't stand for that shit. But also because I knew that, like, the data, if someone wants to know who I am, they'll find it. So there's no, anonymity is an illusion as well. And I think that that's where I sort of go, well, what now? Because I do believe that, like, anonymity is mostly an illusion. Like, trust me, if the feds want to know who you are, or people want to know who you are, they'll find you. Okay. There's probably, they'll find you. Trust me. If you're your average person, like, commenting on YouTube, thinking that a user and anonymous, like, if let's say you said something that I could call and do a defamation claim, I just write a letter to YouTube, and through the discovery, they'd have to, like, yeah, you know what I mean? We'll probably find they have to give the data over for the most part. Again, simplistically speaking, they try to fight that, but again, anonymity is an illusion. Trust me. So if it's an illusion, then it's not an argument for other solutions that are on the table, and that's all. Again, I've just fucking wandered off into a whateverville. Sorry about that, but I'm just sitting here. I think that a lot of us are at a loss. Like, even for me, like, in terms of, because I won't be practicing until, gosh, well, I don't know. I've got to try and figure out how to, like, fast track some of this stuff, but it won't be till 2026 minimum. And it does make me think about whether it's the right, whether I should be fighting the bigger fights or just the little ones, like fighting the little bands, fighting the dark patterns, just duking it out in the Administrative Appeals Tribunal constantly, or QCAT, or wherever, up against these companies, and just being annoying to them rather than, sort of trying to regulate, because I don't feel, because the United States won't be coming to the party. So we're going to have to sort of, buddy up. have to buckle up quite a lot. And so a lot of it is like, okay, where do I focus my efforts? It might just be on helping influencers if they get banned, and help them come up with, various things or whatever. I don't know. I'll think about it. It might be more of a media law, or, more in defamation or something like that down the track, because I don't feel. But, we'll see how we go. Again, See, I can't be the only person who just goes, well, I don't know what to say to this. I do have a date for my book to close out, but which is good. But I don't know what to do with this channel. I like the channel. I just sit here talking and it's like, okay, watch it, don't watch it, whatever. I just sort of do a real time thing. For better or worse. But I know there's things I know, which is that I don't want to keep being angry. I don't want to make people angry. I don't want to make people more afraid than they need to be. I want to be a source of calm. Or even just, we sit and I just talk and you have comfort in hearing someone else, just company. So I sit here and I just chatter. I mean, I'd be more happy doing something where I just sit here and just talk shit like this. And someone who's on their own, they just sit there and they hear it and they go, you're not alone. We're just talking shit. I like that kind of stuff. I like just talking about the world and seeing what lands, okay? Because I got plenty of time to do all of the other things, okay? But I just don't want... I like being funny, but I don't know whether... Again, I think that people just need... I think there's going to be a lot of really great jokes, but they've got to be punching in the right direction more than ever. Because I think that we've got to be very, very... I tend to not catastrophize about Trump, but I'm quite concerned about the whole thing. I think America will hold. I've talked about this before. America white knuckles it. That's what they do. And just as everything looks really shit, they sort of turn it around and surprise you. That's what American it's what it is. It's the great experiment known as America, the exception. And so far, this is not just my opinion. This is the consensus of political scientists, the people who know about politics. That, America is always this way and it's always debated. It's an ongoing debate. Will America hold? Will they make it? Is this time the time that it collapses? That's been going on since the beginning. Okay. And so it is hard to tell. It is concerning, but like I said in the last video, I was like, give it a month. Elon Musk and Trump, the cracks will show. Give it a month. And then you never know. You might find that tech ends up being heavily regulated by mistake for the rest of us because Trump and Elon fall out. And he goes, fuck you, I'm going to you just never know. You just don't know what's going to happen. There are lots of potential things that could happen that are not the worst case scenario, but they're not the worst case. They're not the worst case scenario, but to acknowledge that good things can happen doesn't mean that they're not fuckwits, that it's not dangerous, that they're not bad people, all of these things. But good things can still come by accident. Again, you just got to watch your enemy, learn from your enemy, never interrupt them while they're making a mistake, those sorts of things, okay? And if you've looked at the merry band of fucking lolcows, it's they may fail upwards. This is a whole, if you look at his cabinet, whatever you call it, is it cabinet? I don't know, whatever. Those people, it's funny how I can know certain things and then forget basic little shit like that, whether it's, I don't know what it's called, cabinet. The equivalent of a cabinet. They've all failed upwards. Trump fails upwards. Elon fails upwards. They've all failed upwards. So what's not to say that they might not fail upwards now? It might be at the expense of some people. Granted. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. But I'm saying, you have to have trust in the goodness in people. As much as I'm disappointed about all of it and, I thought it was coming, obviously, and I don't like being correct about these things. I was hoping that it wasn't the case. But at the same time, think about him trying to deport people. It's unconstitutional on its face, for a start. All of the things that they're saying will be challenged in court. That's going to take, if they're blocking up the courts, okay, it's going to go fast. It's going to go quickly, okay? If they try to do stuff that this is where the lawyers are going to have some fun. Now, that's assuming that the absolute worst case scenario doesn't happen and, like the military are sent out and all of these sorts of things, right? But I think that what this is largely just a fear campaign to keep people sort of quiet and afraid and all that sort of stuff. But I think that there is a strong opposition to this, okay? And just, I don't know, just try not to be so angry and afraid, because I think it hijacks your reasoning skills for a start. And I just want better for people. I want people to. Oh, the problem that I've got is that I want to stay political without being angry, and it's like at some point someone just equated being angry with politics. And there is a calm way to do politics, which is the proper way. There's a process that you can follow. There's things that you can do that don't involve screaming at people. There's things which doesn't work. Okay, screaming at people doesn't work. There's things that you can do daily in big and small ways. Okay, that make a difference, which is set boundaries with people. Say, I don't want to do this anymore. If you can't like leave the brainworms, then like and talk to me with a bit of respect, then it's over. Like I'm not doing that. It's not about who you voted for, but it's about how you treat people. And it's okay. Like if you do that to me too, if you go, oh, well, I fucking don't like what she says. I've never been upset about uppercase. I don't understand. Explain. Hello, I don't understand. Uppercase letters in messages. Anyway, context. I don't know. My brain moves on too quickly. I forgot like what I said 2 seconds ago. Especially when I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I've said. So, but you can. Oh yeah, okay. But yelling at each other, all of this stuff. I think that we should just take some more responsibility, not for how we're being treated, because you can't control that, but you can control how. Oh, okay, I'm with you now. You can't control how people are going to treat you. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that if you were treated badly that you did something. But you can control how you treat others, and you may find that has a knock-on effect in ways that you might surprise you. Okay, so being less transactional, right? It's look, I'm not going to advocate. I'm not good at tolerating. I don't like. There was this whole conversation recently about cutting family off over politics and stuff. Like I have both perspectives at the same time, and I think that the answer is it depends, which is, politics. If you've got a good family and politics is the only thing, then obviously, stick it out, okay? But if politics is being used as part of a broader overall abusive situation, then by all means, I think you should just cut out people who don't respect you, right? But you've got to meet them halfway, and so you can't really expect people to respect you if you don't respect them back, right? It's a two-way street, and it's not something that's like one for one and transactional. You don't just go, but I was nice to you this once, give nice back, please. Like, I have to. I'm hot-headed, all right? I know you're shocked, but I'm quite a hot-headed person, and sometimes need a minute to just, But I don't like because I'm amazed that people have politics around the table, because my way of dealing with it has always just been like I don't talk about it at all with anyone, because it's like my job, and I know that everyone's wrong. So don't get into it. Talk about other things. And like there are people who know like that obviously that I'm political and I know a lot about certain things, and especially the culture war and all those sorts of things, and they'll start on me and I'll go, okay. Okay. And I'll try not to, I'll just keep trying to, or I say, I don't want to talk about work. I find it boring, right? That kind of thing. Even so, I would say that people who argue about politics in social situations, I'd like you to know that even people who study and work in politics don't talk about it all the time, right? Oh, hi Val. Yeah, it's always whack-a-mole. I was sitting there going, I didn't know how many people were watching, and it was like quiet. Hi Val. Okay, I'll go back and have a look. For fuck's sake, it's always like lucky dip, isn't it? Goodness me. I thought that I can't check it when I'm online. So I'm sitting here just going, hey, all right. That's not unnerving at all. Okay. Because sometimes people don't comment and I just have to fill the space. But I think, but the thing is, I think it's okay to be in two minds about stuff too, where you can be in conflict, because right now, clearly what the left are doing isn't working. Okay, that's something that we have to face. That, again, it's never one thing. I'm not going to reduce stuff down to one thing. Like, all of these things are extraordinarily complex phenomena, and anyone who says otherwise is full of shit. Okay, you can't reduce it down to, like, working class anger. You can't reduce it down to you can't reduce it down to, like, all of these things. Okay, the answer is yes, and all of those things plus more unknown things. That's the answer. Okay. And when people are looking for answers, the left of politics clearly are not giving answers that motivate or move people. And I think a lot of that is because people are sick of being afraid. And they'd rather go with the devil they know. There's a weird, again, if you study the psychology of authoritarians, they get comfort in, like, fascism provides a sort of warm blanket for their rage, and a way for them to sort of to externalize their problems rather than sort of turn it inwards. Like, a lot of, I think, again, not to oversimplify, this is just the psychology stuff that a couple of studies have shown. Like, there's obviously a bigger picture, but lefties tend to be more open and more neurotic. So we're sort of more open to sort of reflecting on our own role in society. Like, that's what goes with because if you're actually a socialist or you're actually left of centre, you have probably read or at least consumed something related to Marxist thought, and so you're going to be familiar with certain concepts, like how you contribute to an overall system a lot more. Like, that is that's like the inherent ideological difference, of the left, which is that you understand that everyone sort of fulfills certain roles in society, and like, you critique that. Like, that's sort of what it means. It's what critical theory is, right? Well, not critical theory. Well, sort of, you know what I mean. Anyway, can you tell I'm tired today? I'm not doing my best with my theory. I also on trying THC treatment for pain instead of upping opiates, and so that's probably affecting my ability to think. But yeah, well, systems thinking. Yeah, well, yeah, that was the word I was trying to think of, Val. Thank you. The left tend to do more systems thinking naturally. Okay, so I would say that it is more of a whereas the right tend to not really deconstruct those systems, and yeah. Anyway, it's a whole thing. Anyway, but I just getting away from that. I think that we've got to understand that it's just not working. Okay, so you need to reach people with something else. It's not working. Whatever we're doing isn't working. people are blaming. It's funny because people are blaming the Democrats and blaming the center and blaming the left and blaming the tankies and blaming the wokes and blaming this and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of it, I think, having come out the other side of this, is that I don't think that it was necessarily anyone's fault. You're up against Trump, like he's just a bulldozer, and it's just unfortunate that this far right movement does tend to it's a bulldozer. It doesn't matter whether you're doesn't matter what, when you're standing in front of a bulldozer, the outfit you're wearing or the things you're saying doesn't fucking matter. It's going to hit you and you're fucked, okay? I feel like that was at least part of it, which is that that it's the unique nature of Trump, okay? And all of this sort of cult, this very sinister, unholy alliance between all of those people, okay? Which everyone saw coming. If you were paying attention, you knew that this was coming. But anyone sort of, I'd even say, even to the centre, to the left of politics, have mostly been letterboxed out of US politics to begin with. But, well, anywhere really, here as well, anywhere, right? The left have been letterboxed out for some time. In mainstream politics, right? The UK, not so much, but, you know, and yeah. Anyway, what we're doing and saying isn't resonating with people, okay? And that's why it's like, okay, maybe there is something to the not being angry, refusing to put, maybe you need to be in a place of civil disobedience against the algorithm as well, which is not beat them at their own game with angry headlines and stuff, but try to be a force for people that is calm, confused and perplexed. Not people, angry people that have all of the answers and don't read and offer simplistic stuff, right? But refuse to do that stuff. Call up YouTube and go, if you've got if you're a big YouTuber, okay, call them up and go, I don't want to do this anymore. How do we, like, I can't. How do we just make everything less angry? Okay. Yeah, it is. It is a symptom. Val said it's a symptom, a spectacle in the magic trick sense, but a symptom in the will to power sense. Absolutely. And, you know, I do, this is just kind of a very meandering thing. Like, obviously, there are answers to these things, but I do, there are answers, but at the same time, I think we need to acknowledge that if you're not winning people over, you're missing something. It means, like, again, I think it's big, if you've got a career in sales, you know this intuitively more, right? Which is that politics is ultimately marketing and sales, okay? You're trying to get people, meet people where they're at and get them to buy what you're selling, okay? Whether it's an idea, you're just trying to, the thing they buy is a vote. Oh, sorry, the other way around. They buy from you, they vote for you. It's the same as a sale. You know what I mean? And ultimately it's sales. And when you work, like for me, we used to do, it's so much easier to sell like small things to people because the stakes are low, okay? But sometimes when you're dealing with like enterprise IT and enterprise apps and tech and all that sort of stuff and trying to be a preferred provider as an agency to a big vendor, that sales cycle can go for years, okay? And that's just with, it is social engineering. But it is, what was I going to say? What was I saying? Can't remember. Distracted me. Yes, it is social engineering. There's lots of different terms for these things. I'm just like, psychologists and lawyers tend to break it down into sort of more individual combinations of individual phenomenon. like social engineering is sort of the broad tent of nudges and persuasion, right? But the actual mechanisms, like individual psychological mechanisms, the whole combination of things, and then you sort of you kind of extrapolate right up to the sort of bigger system type. Yeah, anyway, it depends on your discipline and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, my brain farted. I was sitting there trying to think about what I was saying. If you can't remember, I was talking and then the chat. Anyway, I forgot. Can't have been that important. But, that's right, just, being less angry, right? Yes, it is sophistry as well. Yes, thank you, Val. So, I don't want to get into theory. Oh, wait, this is a sort of not an educational thing. Okay. So I'm trying to talk about ideas without getting quibbled down into terms and quibbles. I'm trying to name feelings. I'm not trying to explain things. I'm trying to articulate a feeling, and those are very different language spaces pulling me into theory. It's not, I'm in a different space, different headspace. So I'm trying to articulate how I feel about the situation and why I'm frustrated. Of course, there's names for things, like, there's a million different terms for a million different things. It's just, not relevant really. So I'm trying to express how I feel and how I think others should process, how I process stuff. Yeah, I was. Oh, that's right. So at the sales cycle. Yeah. So in the IT business, like the sales cycle can be 1, 2, 3 years sometimes, because a lot of people are in long-term vendor contracts, like, so they're suppliers. So in agencies, for example, usually you'll sign on for a year agreement, and if you're looking to switch, then you have to go through a whole RFQ process and all that sort of stuff. And so you need to be constantly selling to that. It takes a long time. It's not one meeting. It is lots and lots and lots and lots of meetings. You've got to build a friendship. You've got to kind of handle objections. You've got to get your foot through the door to begin with. You've got to it's not just, you can't just sit there and stand on a street corner and go, here, you want a lollipop? Yes, sir, 20 cents. That's not how politics works. Politics is more like a long sales cycle of, 3-4 years. And if not, in this case, it's a decade of, off-putting salespeople who expect you to buy stuff without them actually having to give you anything in return. They're just sort of harvesting, expecting that you will just buy from them with no real value proposition or expectation that you're going to, that you expect something in return, right? And politics has become not just a 24/7 news cycle, but, every few hours something new happens. Or something new is threatening to happen, or something might happen. And it's like, okay, well, maybe there's just too much information out there, and you need to focus on the things that you can actually control, right? And one thing that people can control is how they conduct themselves. And I said that in the last Blue Sky video that I wrote, which is to look at how you interact with social media. Look at how you treat people, because if you don't want it to be regulated, so this is the thing I think people get backwards, is that if you don't want social media to be regulated, like with some sort of ID or licensing program, then you need to not also then complain about the problem of Nazis and harassment. You can't have it both ways. Unless it's like, I want my anonymity. I don't want to be ID checked. I don't want this, but I don't like that. And it's like, but that's the solution. The solution to these things is IDs and verification, and and again, there's different versions of that. Some are linked to your ID. Some are just like handshake from the device. There's all these like assurance and stuff. It's like, there's all these different trade-offs, and you can use them in like lots of different ways, right? Skimming over. We don't need to know the details of the tech. I'm just saying, there's too many concepts at once. I'm just trying to, talk about a broader thing. And there's just so many things we can't control. And I just, my frustration is people looking to others, looking to a leader for all the answers, thinking as a service, looking to, politicians to fix their lives, looking for other people to tolerate their trauma and trauma dumping and bullshit and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that, I just feel like people are not going within and looking at their own role in these situations. Like when we had the business, I always took it upon myself to be a good boss. Like, the most social, I think the way to survive as a socialist in this economy is to work for yourself. Unfortunately, you get to a point where you have to hire someone and you end up being a boss, but I at least tried to be the kind of boss that people, I love your value, nerd. It's like I had to say, she's going to drag me down into this. She's going to drag me into semantics, but I'm just saying assurance versus, those things. So you have to skim over it because people, otherwise I'm saying enough to name it and not enough to, I'm not going to go into it. But my main point is that I just don't feel like people are enough in their own, reflecting on their own behaviour. I think that I'm hoping that a bunch of the left are, but I think that not many people are open to the idea that they were wrong. What I'm seeing a lot of is people spinning it into being right. Now, I can understand how people can be right for the wrong reasons and wrong for the right reasons and all that sort of stuff, obviously. And I wasn't fully right. I didn't obviously communicate because I don't do predictions, okay, of politics. I'm not that kind of person because I also know, I was hoping that this would not be the result, but I had a very strong suspicion that it would be based on what I'd seen. I was hoping that it wouldn't be such a it wouldn't be such a bloodbath, but we're here. And I think that that's part of it, is getting through the anger and the grieving process and just accepting we're here now, thinking about what you're going to do. Like, I think one security concern I'd have around X is that, I would not be shit posting Elon Musk at the moment. And I would not be, I'd just be keeping your nose clean. I would advocate for keeping your nose clean in general. And the only time I've ever gotten bans from Twitter is over jokes that I didn't realize were anything until I looked at it and went, oh, that's how a robot saw that. Okay, I get it. I was being sarcastic or whatever. At real Donald Trump, send nudes. I'm going to I need that. I frame that shit. Those sorts of things, like where I was joking and the algorithm doesn't like jokes. And but for the most, so I'm not somebody who really, I don't get into the more abusive side of things anyway. But if you do, I wouldn't be confident that your alts, if you've got an alt account or something like that, that is somehow linked, I wouldn't be confident of shit posting with that shit, right? Such agency. Oh my God, I got no words for what do you say? I think it'll last a month before Musk and Trump hate each other, and then Musk is as an opportunity. I don't make predictions, but where my brain is at the moment is that when you look at the lineup of who he's appointing in his government, I can't see it working for very long. Okay, so I don't think it's going to function. Now, there's obviously downwind, there's problems with that. Now, the fact that the Republicans have both houses is obviously a fucking problem, okay? But you still have the states, you still have the legal system, you still have, 50% of or 40, good portion of the country who who were likely to oppose any of the extreme stuff, right? Again, a lot of people don't vote, but if it's unfortunately it has to get in front of them. But when it gets in front of them, people generally do the right thing and they'll make the right decision. Okay, it'll take forever for them to pay attention and wake up and go, hey, maybe we should change course, like all of the people that I said don't do this with data to. But at the same time, like, I think you have to believe that things are going to be okay. And there is no real risk in being optimistic. Okay, it doesn't mean that you ignore it, right? Around a band of pirates. Yeah, I think that I called it his cabbage instead of his cabinet. It was a stupid thing. It was like, I called them all cabbages. I was just stupid. But anyway, I couldn't think of a good one. Clown car, the usual shit. Yeah, I can't see it sustaining itself for long. There's a reason why the US orients in a certain direction politically, and that is because it is a incredibly complex system, and it's like whatever checks and balances may or may not be there at the federal level, they do exist in lots of different ways, okay? Right down to like communities organising and things being done at the local level. And, like the thing that's different here is like you've got the counties run the police, don't they? If I'm not mistaken, it's not a state. Is it state police or is it local? But like you've got elections for sheriff. Everything is an election. So, for now, but there's only so much damage that can be done. There can be a lot of damage done. A lot of the damage will be through the information we have access to, because if you think that Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk and all of those other guys are not aligned politically in terms of their interests, then, that's you got to get over that one. It doesn't matter what platform you use. It is the same shareholders across all of them, and it's the same venture capital firms, and they will start to suppress critique in the coming years. So you're going to need to build parallel networks. You're going to need to be going more private anyway. And that's why I honestly don't see any harm in there being some sort of licensing system for social media, because I don't think that putting these thoughts out there publicly is necessarily a good thing anyway, right? Well, yeah, every government has their own police. Like, so this is the nitty-gritty stuff, but in Australia we've been sort of over time, our legal system has gotten very heavy on the administrative law, right? So every government department, every layer of government, they all have scrutiny and a complaints mechanism and an accountability mechanism through the courts. And I think that America, it varies from state to state there. I don't know the details. That's a level of detail in America that I don't know very well, but I imagine it functions much the same, is that there are avenues. You guys are more organised. So those that are political are a lot more organised than those than here. Like here, we suffer a lot from complacency across the board. Like apathy is a big problem here, but Americans have a lack of knowledge, but not necessarily a lack of empathy. They just reject knowing the facts. Yeah, okay, so there are state police. Okay, so counties have sheriffs. So you've got your so you got 3 levels of police. Okay. So we've just got the 2. Most people just ignore the council here. I'm kidding. We've got the bin police. People who put smiley faces on our bins. I hate those people. ACAB when it comes to the bin police. No. But yeah, it's I think, I don't know, I haven't really had any real coherent thoughts, but I think something needs to give in terms of like where I move. I found a good time for the book, so that's good. I can finish that finally, because it's been sitting in a drawer for some years now, and I want to get it done. I'm hoping to get it done. I'm just fucking swamped with exams at the moment. I really shouldn't be streaming. I'm streaming to avoid doing but I think that I want to stop being angry. I want to stop being defensive. I want to try and be more patient. I'm never going to be more patient. I'm always going to bark at you when you fucking... I get irritated. It's very annoying. I shouldn't get irritated with chats. It's not you, Val. It's more, I don't get irritated with the fact that you've chatted. I get frustrated with myself because I can't hold the thought that I had, and I get distracted, and then I was like, so it's not your fault. I wasn't mad at you. It's like I lost my train of thought. There's a more interesting thought over here. It's tougher to do than you'd think. Like looking at the chats and stuff. So,
that mass murderer Karl Marx.
Oh, here we go.
Elon.
I don't know. It's tricky when what you do is political, and you don't want to do the type of political content that actually people are hungry for. But honestly, I think I don't want to write people off, but I think that those who care about politics right now are either forced to care about it because it's their job, yeah, or they're mentally ill. I think that most people are just sick of it, tired of the anger, tired of the division. But being tired of that stuff is also a privilege and a luxury, and I understand that because obviously, you know, like I understand that there are people who are fighting for, you know, like just the right to exist, right? I hate using that phrase because it's been weaponized so heavily, but you know what I mean. It's tricky. Like, I think it's okay to not know, and I think it's okay to be uncertain. But the thing about being uncertain is that it's uncomfortable, and people don't like uncertainty, and that's why they're sort of heading towards they sort of run towards what sounds like a certain answer, but there isn't one. Even the people who do know are so overwhelmed with it could be this, but it could be this, but also this, but also this. But it's also this, but it's also that, and also this, and that perspective. Thank you. And also, it's all of these things, plus I could also be wrong about any one of those things. And so I think that being angry is unproductive. Being afraid is good for you as far as it will have you prepared for the worst, but don't do it beyond that. Don't go into nihilism or get yourself black-pilled or anything like that. Don't do anything stupid. If you need to talk to someone, talk you out of that fucking mode, then hit me up and I will talk you out of it. Okay? Things can get better. Just one day. Next day, you just never know. If there's one thing that I know, having had a lot of shit, is that you just don't know what's going to happen. You can't predict stuff. Okay, it's hard being human. It sucks being human, and the fact that we don't have ESP, we can't predict stuff. Okay, we can model stuff, we can have a guesstimate, but we still can't expect. We don't know. Okay, and that's good. That's okay. It's okay to not know. And I think that if there was ever a time to not know anything, it would be when nobody fucking knows. And those who are saying they do, I think should be not trusted, because those people are trying to sell you content and they're probably missing a spot. They're probably wrong about something. And nobody really knows how to move forward here, other than to just keep people smiling, keep people focused, hopefully just keep motivating people to say enough. Even those who haven't said anything and they have said, has tried to stay out of it, there's going to come a point where if it goes badly or worse, if it gets much worse, people are going to start just disobeying and not they're going to be forced to act. And what you want to do is inspire people to do that. Okay. So, anyway, my doorbell just went. So, I think it was just Amazon, whatever. Anyway, I think that's my sign to go anyway. I've got to go study. But I'm going to try and I don't know what, I really don't know what to do in terms of this channel. I have been meaning, I was thinking of maybe just focusing something around an actual podcast that's got a theme and guests and stuff, but I don't really, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm just thinking about what to do. Things are a bit dark, but I don't think that I don't think it's very productive to wallow for longer than a few weeks. And I think it's okay to take a minute. And I think it's okay to need a minute. Sorry, my fucking door's going on. Anyway, just the Amazon guy. Anyway, what was I going to say? Hovering. No, okay. Anyway, yeah, I think it's okay to need a minute, but I think it's okay also to set boundaries with people and say, you know what, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm exhausted. Just do what I do and say, no, I don't want to get into a fight. I know how this goes, you know, and there is a reason why. And I was thinking about this, like, there's a reason why lawyers talk to other lawyers and scientists talk to other scientists, and there's a reason why, like, especially when you're when you need a lawyer, there's a reason why people don't let sort of lay people self-represent against legal professionals, because there's a gap in knowledge, okay, and that, you know, there's a gap in experience and sort of all of that sort of stuff, right? Where sometimes I just don't want to get into a debate because I know that that person doesn't have the sort of background and it's just going to be unproductive. I already know how it's going to go. And especially like when it's your family and they're like, oh, you think you're better than me. It's like, no, I just know more than you do on this and I know where it goes and I don't want to talk about it. And then you know, so I've gone through that with my family too. Like my family are all pretty fucking horrible with politically, right? But it's not the politics. Trust me, it's a world, it's a set of behaviors, you know. I just don't like aggressive people and aggressive personalities and toxic people. It's just not like something that I like in my life. And I think it's okay if you're trying to do better and if people are cutting you off, and I've experienced that too, and I've been the person who cuts people off. Try to understand that people have their reasons and forgive them for it. You know, I don't know what to do. Moving forward, it's just I'm trying to preach calm, you know, less anger, less rage, less shit posting. Like, I'm bored with shit posting. Do you know why? Because I've been doing it for 20 years. It's not funny anymore. Shit posting was only funny when no one else was doing it. Now that it's the norm, I think kindness is the, like, rebellious thing to do, and empathy and calm and being calm. And I think, you know, my dilemma is how much I continue to engage with people who are aggressive online. Like I just see it every day. Every day I just dread. Like I don't even read my YouTube comments because actually the most of them are pretty 50-50, but the ones that are aggressive are horrible, right? And it's like, but that, how do you even fix that? Like I shouldn't have to have like that abuse. It's not your right to abuse people just because they're doing something on the internet or existing. And yeah, and authenticity is it's always been my thing. It was something that I've always tried my best to be honest and ethical. I haven't always gotten it right. I haven't always been operating on the right information, and I've been caught sometimes taking something on face value, not realizing that, you know, I was missing information. That's something that those, you know, the IDW types and the MAGAs and stuff, they rely on something that's a little bit true and then misrepresenting it. Like, this idea that Kamala Harris was too woke. And it's like she didn't mention trans people once during the campaign. She, if anything, avoided that stuff. So, what we're learning is that it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what you do. People are going to decide that you did it anyway, and they're going to say it. And I think that's the part that I'm struggling with, because there's a freedom in that. Like, actually, when you talk about authenticity, Val, that's something that I've always done. Like, up until 2014, it made me a good amount of money, right? I built a bit of a persona and all that sort of stuff. I then outgrew it, so it was authentic at the time, okay? But then that trap where you feel like you have to keep delivering like X, Y, Z. And I fell on the wrong side of the algorithm, and then, got remarried, grew, all of this stuff. You get older and the world changes, and you change as the world changes. Like, if you're the same as you were 5 years ago, like, I see people talking about the exact same thing in the exact same way with no nuance, nothing new, no information. And they've done that for 10 years now, over and over again. Same thing. Still talking about game. It's like things evolve. Okay, like we can look at Gamergate with a different lens now, because it's like 10 years ago, and like things have unfolded and developed, and there's more nuance, and things are more complicated than you'd have it believe. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to go, oh shit, and it's okay to be uncertain about stuff. And I think that like we need to get away from this ecosystem where people are selling certainty. Like, it's okay to not know stuff. Like, I don't understand. This is the thing about America. And Simon Piker said it. Like, I think he got the word wrong, but he's called it the American exceptionalism, which is this idea that like because a country is so individualistic, right? And we're individualistic here in Australia as well, and we have the same phenomenon, which is that because people are all about, their own, it must be the THC. It does affect the way that my words like fall. It takes me a bit longer. I'll adjust. I've just got to adjust to the new medication. But anyway, what was I saying? Can't remember. Oh, I forgot. I distracted myself. See, if it's a buzzword, it's only a matter of time before it gets abused and needs a new buzzword. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So individualism, American exceptionalism, this thing where it's like the individual exceptionalism. It's like the American exceptionalism sort of trickles right. It's the only thing that trickles down, but it trickles down into people just not relying on anyone else for anything, including knowledge or wisdom or anything like that. Right. Yeah. So exceptionalism. So it's so you've got the American exceptionalism, which is a hazy term, but you got the individualism that it's kind of like this has trickled down to the individual person, right? And I see it here, where School of Life, they think they're autodidactic, or they don't need to. There's nothing that you can learn from others or from the people who came before you. You just figure it out for yourself. And it's like, well, no, you can easily go on the wrong track that way. And that made me laugh, because I obviously observed that shit. Obviously, the people who don't read and have a lot of opinions and not a lot of knowledge. It's the problem is that the people that you most wish would listen and be more humble and realize that they don't know everything, I don't know whether it's worth trying to reach people like in that regard anymore, because I don't know, maybe they just need to be really, really humiliated or something. But look at someone like Tim Pool, who is just proud of his wrongness. He just doesn't care. It's just a business to him. He doesn't care about. They refer to this stuff as content, and it's just content. They don't care about anything other than like clicks, numbers, the virality, all that sort of stuff. They don't have a real worldview. They've just glommed onto political rage and anger and division and drama. And, what annoys me is that, like, the left have to compete in that space too. So you find, like, there are people that I listen to who, as part of their strategy, they actually have to be more outrageous than they would want to be, because that's how you get people to watch. And it's like, there has to be a better way to reach people. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. That's just where my head's at the moment, which is that I just don't want to be angry. I don't want to be making anyone hurt any more than they're going to be. I want to make it better in whatever way I can. I just don't know what capacity that's going to be in. Obviously, I'll be a lawyer and stuff and I can do my part there. But I mean in terms of, like, my individual contribution online and the content that I produce, and, like, it's not exactly it's not like I'm making money on it or anything anyway. So it's like, it's not high stakes for anything. It's not like I have employees. And I mean, I've done that before. I have had employees and then shut down, and that was really tough. Versus, at least now it's just me, and I can just say what I want, do what I want in my little corner of, like, a handful of people who watch, right? But I don't think I'm trying to figure out the best way forward in terms of the substance of what I'm doing and the goals. I think I'm a little directionless, because a lot of it was about trying to get people to see that this was coming. But now we're here, and so I need to change tack and not really, like, I maybe focusing more on some of the history of a lot of these things. I mean, I've gone over it over the years, but that none of this is happening in isolation, and a lot of it is, a lot of it was preventable. But hindsight's 2020. There's not much you can do about that. But we need to. But I also am concerned about sort of harking back too much and not focus on the future. So it's I just saw Val's chat. It's like, wait, there are false autodidacts. That's going to be a fun existential crisis to learn myself through. Thanks. Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's one of those things where I've grown up being pretty intelligent my whole life and being othered as a result. And I think part of the reason why I am allergic to sort of jargon and, your very complex and dense sentences, Val, as much as I love it, and I understand it, I had to dumb myself down for so many years in order to fit in. And I do it, like, to an extent. It's like a lot of my life's work has been to simplify, because people already switch off as it is. It's very, very hard to get people's attention. And if you sort of blanket them with jargon, they switch off even faster. I also don't feel, one of the things that I've worked on over the years is it's okay if people don't go away thinking that I'm smart, and if people go away thinking I'm stupider than I am, that's okay. And that was what I was actually saying before about how you can't really control what others are going to do. You can't control what they think either. You don't need I used to feel like I had to pretend, or not pretend, I had to prove that I was smart at all times. I had to be the smartest person in the room, and I had to be, like, always. And that's just something that over the years I've learned. I think part of growing up in my family, like, where, like, just not, yeah, anyway, imagine it. It was not pleasant, and I was bullied for these things. And so I just sort of learned to say very little. But I never would, like, but just over the years, I just found that there was an erosion of who I am by feeling like I needed to prove that I was smart. Like, I'm worthy of respect whether I'm smart or not. I'm worthy of respect whether I'm, you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's Yeah, yeah. And I used to do that a bit. Like I've never, it's not a style that like I like because it's just, I understand it, like what you're going for, but I just, it, I switch off with it. But like I try, obviously, but I also know that people like things at a fifth grade level. 60% of Americans can't read at fifth grade level, so I'm always conscious of that. And a lot of these streams have always been about trying to find the right words. So stumbling around, meandering about, not having much of an aim. And I watch it back and I might have found some words. I don't think I did today because I was just waffling, but some of it is a little bit of stream of consciousness. When I don't feel like writing, like typing, I'll sit and like I'll stream or whatever and try to find an angle or find some it's a bit like, yeah, it's just sort of stream of consciousness at the moment. And I think that with things being uncertain and just everyone's freaking out and it's pissing me off. Just pissing me off. I'm just tired of it. And I understand that people are afraid and legitimately so and all of that stuff. I understand what the threat is, but I'm just trying to figure out what role I can play in that in talking people off a ledge. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have answers. I feel like people are too entrenched. I'm trying to figure out how mostly how we just get through this and how we can maybe build better, different, alternative ways of approaching content. Maybe people might want to start looking into things that are more substantive, substantial. Again, like the main reason that I started streaming, other than just wanting the camera skills and wanting to learn how YouTube works, like from a creative point of view and all that sort of stuff, was because people also just weren't reading long form. Everyone was just commenting that my articles were too long and that it should be shorter and shorter and shorter, and like everyone. And I think that there was a race to the bottom there for a while, especially in like the SEO space, that shorter was better. And it is that whole thing where we haven't really found that equilibrium yet between, getting people's attention, keeping people engaged long enough, but also without a massive cost of like facts and details and not oversimplifying it. Like that's a constant struggle for me as well. Like when I'm sitting here trying to use a word, it doesn't mean I don't know what other 10 words there could be. I'm just trying to find one that resonates with the most people. And, I say leave the jargon leave it to the academics. It's not necessarily something that the everyday person is interested in, and trying to reach the everyday person get them interested in this stuff is a big part of what I do, because I have to persuade for change. I have to persuade. I mean, I'm not going to be obviously not going to be a courtroom lawyer. You've seen how much I waffle. I get fucking hammer thrown at me. Like, I see a grumpy judge throw their wig off and go, get to the fucking point, counsel. So I won't be doing that. I'll probably be doing more solicitor work. I don't think I'll be a barrister. But I also I'm better at persuading with the written word, obviously. But, I do need to find a way, especially in the legal profession in particular. The way we're being trained now is very different to how a lawyer 20 years ago would have been trained. Now there is a very heavy emphasis on plain language contracts, simple language, no jargon, readable, so that, people actually understand what they're signing, using plain language. Like there's a lot of very persuasive high court cases here where if you don't have a contract that is easy to understand for, at a certain reading level, especially in like financial products and insurance products and those sorts of things, you're going to find yourself like in a lot of trouble for predatory contracts. So, and I think that's the move. That's a good move. And in America particularly, like, was it Nixon that did this? Nixon? was it Kennedy or Nixon? One of them who basically was like simplify the laws into plain language. He had a whole mandate, like the plain language stuff around every regulation and stuff having to be in plain English so that people can understand it. Like jargon is exclusionary. The more jargon you use, the more exclusionary you are in your messaging. And that's just me. I try to be inclusive because again, I'm not saying that I'm saying you can exclude who you like when you are communicating in your circles, but you got to understand that we've had this conversation. You understand that you lose a good chunk of people where you might have had them before. The problem is that I also then run the risk of, this is why I sit there and I'm like, hum and ha, hum and ha, hum and ha. This is part of my dilemma, is that because then you also alienate the people who know what the jargon is. Like, Val knows me. Yeah, Val knows me to know that I know what the words are. But Val's a lady. She's not a man. Men will turn around and assume that just because I use one word doesn't mean I don't know what the others are, and they'll make it painful and they'll hijack and they'll call you stupid and all that sort of stuff. So there is that sort of credibility problem as well, where you're expected to sort of use this set of words in order to be perceived as an expert. But then you've got to have this other set of words in order to be engaging to the average person, for them to be interested in things that affect their lives. Those things don't overlap much, okay? And that's always been the space where I've always been very interested in how you get everyday people interested in more complex things. Yes, we do. I know, but I find it to be an interesting conversation because it's a constant dilemma. It does come back to what I'm saying about that constant pull between educational content that no one watches. Well, I mean, you can have interesting content no one watches too. But you know what I mean? But educational content that is either going to be too long or too expensive. A lot of it is expensive because documentary stuff is very expensive to produce. Or you can do a screen share with PowerPoint, but it's boring and no one's going to watch it. Like they might, you get what I'm saying. But then the more entertainment that you put in, the more interesting that it's going to be. But you've got to get rid of the jargon. And so I've always been interested in that sort of threading that needle. And it's not an easy one to, like, the people that, this is it's always the problem. But then also now you've got the problem of cross-cultural communication. So it's not even just doing that domestically with Australians. You're doing that with Americans who ban words all the time. And so you're actually also having to cater to an algorithm that says, oh, she said Xanax, ban her. She said this, like innocent, you don't even know what you said. Like a lot of the things where you might have been shadow banned, you might find that it's not even the swearing. It's actually the, it's more subtle than that, But, I don't want to do a niche. Because that means I have to, as soon as it's like, that means I have to focus on one thing. I'm not going to focus on one thing. I'm interested in all the things. That's part of sort of like, that's part of being a systems thinker, is that you also end up being a bit distracted by, you go down rabbit holes a lot. And, systems thinking again, so people have tried to put structure around these things and, missing the point as usual. Silos in systems thinking, which always cracks me up. You can tell it came from an engineer. Complex systems. Anyway, it's just, I'm just trying to, I thought I'd show up. I'm trying to make sure that I show up every Monday at minimum. I didn't have much. I'm still just in this, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. Everyone's freaking out. Everyone is like going on different platforms, freaking out. People are like unsubscribing from things, from political content, which I'm paying attention to. You've got people at AOC who are listening. You've got these sort of fights within, the Australian Labor Party and all this other stuff that's going on. I haven't ignored that. And it's just like, okay, where can I Where do I fit best, other than being a lawyer, of course, and being mindful of that as well. That I can't obviously, the obvious thing would be to comment on cases, but there comes a point where you can't really be ethically commenting on active cases either. So you got to be very careful about that, especially jury trials and stuff like that, where like no one watches my stuff, but there's always that chance that someone could you can prejudice a trial that way, right? You can't do that stuff. So as much as LawTube and those sorts of things are viable niches, it's only something that you got to do it with a lot of care. Like here, you shouldn't be commenting on active proceedings. America seems to be, I think, because it's state by state. If it's in another state, it's a little more fluid. But you got to be really erring on the side. And a lot of those people are later in their careers, so they are somewhat protected. They've been registered and practicing. I'm still trying to get appointed, so it's different battle. You got to be very careful about the things that you comment on, right? But I do like doing it, so it's like, okay, well, I'll think it out. I'll think about it for next week and what we're going to do. I'm just going to try and do. I think that what I would like to do is do more. But I don't want to be one of those cunts that does self-help shit either. Some of it works. Everything is the niche. Well, I have a niche. It's called everything. Yeah, it's I actually don't. I have one. It might seem like it's like I think about a lot of different things and talk about a lot of different things, but it is only really a couple of different ends. It does come down to policy and on internet behavior and how we fix these problems at the end of the day. They are still quite granular solutions, like talking about like licensing for social media and putting it out there as someone who opposes it on its face, but we also have to acknowledge that it's not working. Putting thoughts like that out there, where it's like we need to rethink some stuff. We need to get over ourselves. And that's part of the thing is like, we need to get over ourselves and accept that this is broken. And you can't retreat into how you want it to be or how it should be. You have to see things as they are. And like in any kind of government policy, there's a process that supports. It's as much about truth finding and truth seeking. Believe it or not, it's not perfect, but it is. The process. If it works well, you sort of gather the information. You get as much information as possible. You seek input from the public. And then you report back, and then they report back on that, and then it's a constant cycle of review. That's the policy cycle. But like anything, you're not going to have good policy if you don't have a good information to begin with, and you're working from a faulty premise. And I try to do that with myself, and examine my premises as much as I do my conclusions. And obviously schizophrenia is perfect. Schizophrenics are perfectly logical if you know what their premise is. They reason perfectly from the premise, okay? Schizophrenics usually reason beautifully, and they can sound like the most sane person on earth, but their premise is faulty, okay? Which is that, there's bees in their beard, right? They're acting perfectly reasonably and rationally for someone whose bees are literally stinging them, but you get what I'm saying? And I think that more people are just reasoning from, like, they're willing to accept different conclusions, but they're not necessarily willing to go back and look at the premise on which they build these things. And I think that that's maybe something that I can talk a little more about. This has been an absolute dog shit show of waffling, but normally I at least know what I'm going to talk about. This is what happens when I don't know what I'm talking about. You're a private citizen, no idea what you're referring to. It makes sense, and it means it probably applies to Australia and not to the US. Which one's that? I'm just talking about theory, policy cycle. That's what I've been referring to generally. This is actually just a theory, all right? This is just policy analysis and how an ideal policy cycle would work. It's much like a software development life cycle or any kind of theoretical model of a cycle, right? That's what I was referring to with policy, unless you're referring to something else. But what was I going to say? Yeah, maybe, we can maybe look at some premises, because the thing about the internet anonymity, like people, it's 1 versus 0, black and white doesn't work. And so maybe we need to look deeper into some stuff. People are going to hate me for it. People are not going to watch it because they're going to find it boring. I'll try to be funny and, I'll still be me, but I'm just trying to figure out what's best to talk about. Like I can talk about tech regulation. I'll try to make it interesting. I'll just do what I keep doing and just talking and hoping stuff comes out. But it just where the focus is. That's sort of why I've been adrift as well with writing and stuff. I still write every day, but it's not really that coherent, right? Sorry, yeah, okay, yeah, trial biasing. Juries get isolated, but controversy in the court of public opinion abound. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the rules are there because I know juries get sequestered and stuff there, and they do here as well. But just it's more. It's not that that doesn't happen here. It's just that legal, in theory, lawyers are officers of the court first and foremost, and you are expected to operate in. You're held to a higher standard. So it's not that. It's funny actually. I said this during COVID with my friends who were doctors, and they were chomping at the bit. They were so fucking pissed off because the medical board was saying they couldn't correct people and all of these things, and because they were held to a different standard than people who aren't doctors. And it's the same thing with psychologists. It's like once you've got the board registration, you're held to a higher standard, but what that allows is for people to fill the vacuum where an expert would be. And so lawyers are held to a different standard in that regard, which is that we're not supposed to comment on active cases because it's someone else's case, first of all, just because it can prejudice the case. It's not that we're not allowed an opinion. Of course we're allowed an opinion. And I'm sure that people do talk about active cases and all that sort of stuff, right? It's just not ethical. Okay, so I imagine it's the same thing with every bar in the US, but it's just a bit more free and loose there. Let's be honest, they're a bit more fast and loose. Fast. I'd love to be a lawyer in America because it seems like you'd never be out of work. Let's put it that way. I don't think you'd be out of work here either, but it's just. It's just, again, it's an ethical thing. I just prefer, I agree that lawyers shouldn't be commenting on active cases when they're not part of the case because they haven't reviewed the evidence. Okay. Everything has, and that's the thing, everything has trade-offs to it. Like I could quit law school and keep talking about internet regulation and internet law with abandon. As soon as I'm a lawyer, I'm limited by what I can do and say, and I've got to be held to certain things. And and again, it would depend on, there's lots of different variables there, right? But with someone with a digital footprint like I've got to be a little bit extra careful because if, previous tweets or shit that I've done or said or whatever, any skeletons sort of come up, I need to be clean in other areas. So it's more about like people who aren't shit bags online could probably get away with one indiscretion in that regard. People who are shit bags online shouldn't be a shit bag anywhere else. You got to be, you got to think strategically about what you're, all the trade-offs. Okay, I'm more conservative when it comes to other ethics and other things because. Like NDAs, I keep my NDAs. I don't defame anybody. I try to keep a lid on it. Every so often I'll be tempted to blow the lid on something and I'll delete it straight away. It's like, I'm human too, but you just have to hold yourself to a certain standard and not be dragged like into areas where I could find myself like in $150,000 of debt and no law career. That'd be great. At least I'd be free to be a law tuber, I guess. But yeah, anyway, it's an interesting area anyway. I'm just trying to think about where I can be of best value. I'm always thinking of that. Most of this I do because I'm like sitting and studying and writing all day. And it's like, it helps me to just get some fucking contact that's not my son or my husband. I got to do more social things, but a lot of it is because I work on my own, so I don't get as much social interaction as other people. I mean, I have friends and stuff, obviously, and I talk to my neighbours and all that kind of thing. But that can only take you so far. I do like to I don't talk about politics with them. So, I'm just trying to figure out how I can be political, stay political, talk about politics without being angry, without commenting on existing cases, but also in an entertaining way. It's a tough thing, but I'm just trying to figure out the best thing to do. I'm thinking that I'll get User Story Hour up and running and focus on that. But and I do want to finish the book, but I just like doing this, and I'm trying to find a good reason to do it. But I feel like I'm wasting my and everyone else's time by just showing up and being unprepared like I was today, and just like waffling. But if you see value in just me talking, then I'm happy to just sit and talk. And you find comfort and value in me just sitting and talking for 2 hours, I'm happy to do that. That's fine with me. If you want to come onto a stream, let me know ahead of time and I'll invite you. It's like I use Restream, so you can just log in. It's not an issue. And you just want to chat. If we just want to build a little casual chat thing, I'm happy with that too. I just want to be a vessel for optimism and hope and pragmatism as well. Not being obviously blindly optimistic or whatever, but let's be cautiously up. Let's at least choose the charitable, optimistic view rather than because how you feel about something that's outside of your control is not going to change what happens, but it will affect the things you can control because you'll feel like you've got less agency. Being nihilistic about things that you can't control does operate on the things, it does affect the things that you can, like, motivation, learning skills. If you think the world's going to end and everything, learning skills, being kind, or what Elon Musk has done this week. Well, he might have, and your friend's a bit of a cooker. Oh, well, you can't control that they're a bit of a cooker and that what they're going to do, but you can control how you talk to them if you're up for it, and if not, within boundaries. As long if people who are a bit crazy are fun to be around. Okay, just being nihilistic it'll permeate through every part of your life, and it will hurt you. And I know that that's a cliched thing about anger isn't futile because it's like it's like drinking poison, right? But it is at least partially true in the fact that if you feel hopeless about everything, and it is easy to do because everything feels hopeless, okay, you're not going to want to do anything about it. You're not going to feel motivated to change it. But if you feel optimistic about it and choose to think the best of people, because I'm an idealist, I think the best of people. They disappoint me a lot, I get disappointed a lot. You've got to be ready for a lot of disappointment if you choose to be, idealistic and optimistic. But people sometimes rise to the challenge. Sometimes people can surprise you, okay? And you don't know what's around the corner. But I do know that as things get worse, they are also going to get more unpopular, which means that the resistance will be stronger, which means you'll have more support, which means things are better than you thought, okay? And I know that that's a simplistic way to see it. I don't see it, obviously, but I think sometimes people just need that like little bit of a fucking, like, It's not going to change the outcome. That's why I think if I can change the outcome, obviously I'll do something about it, right? But I can't care about things where I can't actually change the outcome. You know, like I spent, how many years trying to tell people about all this sort of social media stuff and how it was dangerous and they shouldn't be doing this stuff and they needed to redesign their shit because it was going to end badly, and, you know, how this culture war stuff was a lot more more like termites for the internet and institutions than people were giving credit for. And, you know, like it was within my control to try and do as much as I possibly could. Now, could I have written a book? Yes, but like I didn't have time. So I did what I could. I did as much as I could. Could have done more, but I didn't. But there comes a point where some of that stuff was outside of my control. Like I can say it and say it and say it, and if people block me for saying it, then there's nothing I can do about them and their psychology. They have their reasons. And if people aren't ready to hear what I've got to say, that's okay too. Like, and if the way that I package it, which is in boring, meandering, fucking rambly shit like this, then that's my own fault. That's my fault too. That I wasn't able to get it together to write it into the right format. That's okay, but it's here, it's documented, and you know. But I do try to think every time. I do hope that I can change some hearts and minds sometimes and get people thinking differently, and maybe get people talking again, and or talking. Okay, not talking again, because there's obviously you got to do it in the right way. But I don't understand why people who aren't working in politics or qualified in politics give so much of a fuck about politics, and why people who give so much about politics won't bother to learn it, like the basics. I don't understand, like, why you care so much about politics without a willingness to learn, like, basics. I find it bizarre that my discipline is just effectively like turning into like cults for people, and they're incredibly unhealthy. It's incredibly unhealthy to be this obsessed with politics if you don't work in it or study it, or, you know, yeah. And if you work on studying in it, you should at least know it, and know the difference between different levels of government, and, you know, all of those sorts of things. Like, even I'll sit there and I go, I don't know the details of the American system. I know broadly, but there's 50 states in America that all with different systems and different like cultures, and they're all disparate, and, you know, that's part of what makes them great. Is they're bewildering you with confusion 24/7, so you just are disoriented all the time, and you're like, okay, where's trying to find the floor half the time, so you can just sort of orient yourself. That's America for you. And it's just another disorientation and another rug pull, and I think she'll hold. I think she'll hold. Believe it or not, I believe in people. I believe in the goodness of people, especially Americans. Good people. Stupid people, but good people. They're not bad people, you know, selfish sometimes, ignorant a lot, illiterate, yes, you know, not really very, very good at reading a room when it comes to the rest of the world in general. But we love you and we're rooting for you, and I you know, I think it might hold. Again, I choose to think that these, you know, let's put some stuff to the test. Okay, these systems that we hold dear, these institutions that we hold dear, if you've studied them at any length, they're quite amazing. Okay, fragile, yes, but they are designed pretty well. They've been designed to weather these things. If you're a political scientist, or you are, you know, interested in legal, you know, or jurisprudence or law or anything, or even just interested in these sort of systems, we get to see in our lifetime, like, one of the biggest tests to the American system that has existed. It's a pressure test for, you know, and again, I'm not saying that it's, you know, I'm saying there's different ways of looking at things. I'm not, that doesn't mean, you know, there's always someone who's like, oh, does that mean that you're okay with people? It's like, oh, of course I'm not. But it's a matter of what you focus on. Like, it's interesting to see if she'll hold. Can she hold? It's interesting. It's America. America always turns itself around at the last minute. Can they do it this time? It's interesting to see. Like if the separation of powers and the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Federation and all of these sorts of things, whether she'll hold, and GRC. What's GRC? What do you? Yeah. Context shift. I don't know what GRC is in this context. Also politics, albeit more science than art. The old G, which is more like sports. I don't know what GRC is in this context. Again, acronyms and stuff. I don't know what it means. So it's probably some niche term that I know, but in this current context on a live stream, it's not. Yeah. Anyway, see, it also breaks the conversation up when I go, I don't know what you mean. Governance, risk, and compliance. Yeah, I figured it was some sort of acronym like that. Okay. Yeah. See, people again, it's about the context of an acronym, because I'm talking over here. I might be talking about law or something else. Governance, risk, and compliance is a corporate term. It's different. It's a different thing. People don't necessarily meet you where you are when you're using acronyms and jargon. I win, Val. It's just yeah. Anyway, people can't hold all of that in their brain. It's I don't know. It just, yeah. Yeah, it is the lag. Yeah, okay. But it's also acronyms. I probably still wouldn't have known what GRC stood for in that context, because I was talking in a different context. But that's okay. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, I'm going to go. It's been too long. I got to go do some study now. I've been avoiding it way too long. And I've got an appointment, and I'm going to go see just coffee. I know. Don't you hate that when you know what the delivery is? It's not that exciting. It's just coffee pods. Ugh. Why can't I get anything exciting? Oh, I am getting something exciting, actually. No, not till next week. Anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. Thanks, Val. I'm just sorry for... we're cool. I feel strongly about the jargon and the acronyms thing, because I am a real-time example of someone who might be across what you're saying, but it puts you on the spot when in this context in a live stream when I'm talking about something else, and it makes people feel and look stupid, even if they know. You get what I'm saying? That doesn't win hearts and minds. I'm saying it gives people a negative feeling. Does that make sense? Again, I don't give a shit. My ego don't give a shit. But I'm saying I'm trying to articulate that's how people feel, which is, they have to know everything all the time. I know what governance, risk, and compliance is, but we weren't talking about that. So yeah. So. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's just one of the limitations of this type of thing. So, but it was just more my overall point about, we've talked about this before. So, but I just feel strongly about that, which is there's got to be something in there about that, like I said, and it is linked to the sort of broader left, right? That coding left, that's the new thing, coding right and coding left. Fucking stupid shit. It's like, no, there's something in all of this that is extremely off-putting about the way that the left, because the left should be winning the fight, and we're very much not. And again, the Democrats aren't the left. The Democrats are centre-right. But I'm just saying, generally, this is where we should be sitting and blaming ourselves as much, because the backlash is against the left, right? It's a backlash as well. Good portion of that vote is a backlash against the worst people on the dum-dums. And so I don't know how to sort of figure that out. And again, I worked on political campaigns forever, right? It's like this is a story as old as time that no one's going to fix with a live stream, but I'm just trying to think about what kind of energy that I can put out, or what kind of stuff can, I don't know, I just don't want to be angry anymore. I don't want to be doing dumb shit anymore. I've outgrown it, and I think a lot of people, I think if you're on the left and you're a shit poster right now, you've got to be thinking about what you've done to alienate people. I think you should be thinking about that. Again, I'm not saying it's not everyone. It's always 50-50. And I think a lot of people are not really looking within and saying, okay, what do I do, or how do I conduct myself in a way that is off-putting to people and not selling what are, well, fact-based, data-based, evidence-based, history-based solutions to these problems. Again, part of it is that, like I said, it doesn't matter what the truth is. People are just going to say what they want about you anyway, and they're going to think what they want about you anyway. And you've got to let go of that. You've got to let go of controlling what people think of you, because they're going to think what they think. Obviously the right wing exploit that, right? They exploit that gap, which is that they tell you what the left is doing and saying, and then build a whole story around it when no one said that shit, no one's done it. And if they did say it, it was some weirdo on Twitter that no one fucking listens to or likes or whatever. It's just, that's their narrative. Their narrative is false. And that's where I can maybe look at getting people to be a bit more comfortable with examining the premise as much as the conclusion, maybe. But people really don't want to hear that, because that's like worldview shattering shit. So, but I'll figure it out. I'll try to, I'll this has just been a turn up on Monday, say stuff. Where to now? I don't know. I like doing this. Doesn't matter if I make money or anyone watches or anything or what. It annoys me the chats don't work, but it is what it is. But it's a tricky one. But again, just it's okay to not know stuff. It's okay to not have answers. Maybe just being someone who shows up without answers and who's not mad. That's all you need to be. Maybe that's all you need to be, is just there, not stripping off, not asking people for money, not expecting anything, just talking, not having answers, not selling anything. I've got nothing to sell. Maybe that's it, right? It's it's maybe that is enough. Maybe just being and showing up and being okay and going, okay, well, you're never gonna know what I would say that you should never assume what my positions are, because unless you happen to know the facts of it'll be online. Usually after days and days of research, and I have a position on something. If I don't know, obviously, if I don't know about something, I'll look it up for days and days. Obviously, I have expertise. I spend more than a few days looking up things I know about. I meant like, just if before I have a position on something or formed a position on something, I usually spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the facts are, and come to people with some sort of answers. But like, I'm never going to say what I think people want me to say. I want people to be better. I want people to be great and thriving and as happy as I am, because I'm pretty fucking, I've had a hard life, but I've got a good one now. And unfortunately, this whole attitude and worldview and behavior and stuff, it doesn't fit now. Like, that stuff fit when I was having it hard. I mean, I still obviously get sick a lot, but, other than that, and the looming fucking shortened lifespan and silly things like that. But for the most part, I've worked through a lot of stuff, and it's not fit for purpose anymore. My problem is that I've got a smart ass. I'm a smart ass as well, so I like shit posting. But I don't know. It's just I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about like where to go from here, especially because people are switching off from sort of political stuff and tech's boring anyway. And the stuff that is exciting about tech and scary about tech, makes you sound like a conspiracy theorist a lot of the time, and you've got to be careful because the people who are controlling the platforms don't really want to get themselves regulated either. So you got to take that stuff under advisement as well. So maybe just showing up, not having an agenda is always the thing for me. It's just show up. If you're here, you're here. If you're not, you're not. If you want to watch, you can watch. If I'm company, then I'm company. If you love me and you want to give me money, then you can do that too, but it's never expected, and I try to be a source of wisdom sometimes, but I don't wander out of my lane, I just, and if I don't have answers, I'll go, I don't know, and I'll look it up later and I'll go, okay, I don't know, I can't be, I think fewer people should have opinions on things. And I think that the influencers themselves aren't going to change. The government's definitely they're doing their best, but it's the Australian government, I mean, they're doing their best, but up against all of this this astroturfing and the US stuff and all that stuff, I don't think there's a lot outside of even our government's control when it comes to if America falls, Australia probably fucking not far behind, okay, because we've hitched our wagon to, pretty tightly. But I don't think America's going to fall. I think it'll just get very shit for a while. But I also believe that they'll resist. What was I going to say? I can't remember. I forgot I was going to say something, but I'm going to go. That was what I was going to say. That's what I said 15 minutes ago, half an hour ago, 2 hours ago. I'm going to go. Quick one, as usual. Yeah, I don't know. I think something's got to give. If you don't see the problems with the internet now, I'm incredibly dumb. And I don't know whether it is worth my while trying to reach people, because if you're not seeing the problem by now, I'm not sure you ever will see the problem. And so I have to focus my energy in areas where I can do better work for people who actually give a shit and want to hear it. So yeah, that's the dilemma anyway. So, but we can start with ourselves. We work on ourselves, and that's maybe something that I can sort of work on, which is work on that together. Work on being less shitposty and be better online across the board. Because I'm someone who's I've been a troll for 30 fucking years. There's nothing I haven't seen. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Val. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I'm going to go. Thanks for watching. I'll be back on Monday. I'll probably do a pre-recorded thing sometime this week, but it always takes so fucking long. But I'll do the best I can. So, but in the meantime, stay calm, stay well, stay uncertain. Learn to sit in not knowing. It's okay to just not know and wonder stuff. You don't have to have the immediate. I know it's it's okay to not have the answers to things. It's okay to just let stuff go. Without having to prove whatever. I don't care. Okay, so you don't need to. I don't care. As in, you should say I don't care what people think. Right? I don't feel the need to prove that I'm smart. You shouldn't feel the need to prove it. You are. Okay. The smartest people know when to shut the fuck up. Not you, Val. I'm not talking to Val. I'm talking to everyone. I'm talking to people who are not smart. Okay. If you want people to think you're smart, at least know what your lane is. Okay. What's that saying about it's better to be quiet and have people not think you're stupid than to open your mouth and remove all doubt? Paraphrasing, but that's about it. But at the same time, you don't actually also need to prove that you're smart all the time. And that's something that I've had to work on. I don't have to have answers. No one does. We're all just figuring it out as we go along. It's this thing called life. We're figuring shit out. Anyone who has things like parenting or politics or society or family or anything like that figured out run the other way, because those are innately complex things, and the answer is always it depends. Okay. No matter how many acronyms you put, it's complex and it depends, and it's context dependent. And I think learning context is kind of important. Yeah, and trauma is a big part of it as well. And that's why I don't feel my knee jerk is to get defensive when people think I don't know a thing, and it's like, no, it's usually I do, but my recall's not that great when I'm in front of lights and shit, and it's like, my knee jerk is to prove that I'm smart, and it's like it's one of my things where I have to prove it because it's my identity. It's such a big part of my identity, and so letting go of that stuff is difficult, and lots of other trauma, right? But we do our best. That's all we can do is our best, and I'm giving you permission to just do your best and not have to be perfect all the time, and not having to be someone that has answers for everybody or everything or every issue. It's okay to just not know and go, all right, well, I don't know, but we can figure it out. I can help you. What can I do? What do you need? You know, or be that friend that goes, I don't know. I don't know if that's such a good idea. Have you thought this through? Or I'm not sure that's true. Like, don't be afraid, but just figure out a way to frame it in a way that's non-adversarial, non-threatening, right? Maybe do an online YouTube counseling lessons in communication or something like that, right? In how to do active listening, or how to frame questions in non-threatening ways, right? There's going to be people who always see disagreement as a threat, but sometimes one thing that I like to do in like a normal situation, not here, it's a different situation when you're like on camera on a live stream and it's like a chat thing with a delay and all that. But in a offline sort of party setting or interpersonal setting or whatever, a lot of the time I will just sort of not give away what I know, and I'll just ask questions and let people reason themselves in circles, right? And that's one of those little techniques where I find that arguing doesn't actually do anything. Yelling doesn't achieve anything. And if anything, it achieves the opposite. Asking people questions and getting them to fall over their own faulty premise, that's where they'll probably get a bit shitty, but it will get in. Right? When you're being rude, they can say that person was an absolute cunt to me. I'm not going to listen to anything that they say. But if you were nice to them and you poke their dissonance a little bit, they're going to go, they were a nice person. I don't like this feeling. I don't like this feeling. But they might hear you out again. So it takes, again, you're in long-term sales. Okay, you're in long-term sales and it's going to take a long time. But again, if you don't have the resources to do that, I acknowledge that. But I think that it is important for the left particularly. And I don't even mean the American left. I mean the global left, because the threat is global, okay? The threat is global right now. There's as many people who've lost their goddamn minds here as America. The Americans are just like obviously swamping every social platform, trauma dumping 24/7. But, don't forget there's a lot of Australians who hold this worldview as well. And the next election, they will definitely try to import this shit again. I'm hoping that with our election, people they'll have 6 months of Trump and go, fuck, and reject it. I hope. But again, I'm optimistic, but I still will show up and I will campaign and I will do the things. I don't really back any real political party, but I don't want a minority government here right now. So I'm going to be campaigning for Labor up front. And they're the best government to have right now, whether you like it or not. They might be ineffective in many areas and they might not be perfect and they might be, but they're fucking far better than anything else that when you consider the global threat. And the Greens are fucking it for everybody. Fuck the Greens. So they're feeding into that same, that anger and the not listening and the accusing and not listening and not hearing and not reading stuff, not bothering to look at the, you know, detailed reports, thinking that just because they've only just started to read it and found out about it, that it's not years of work that has led to it, like with the online safety bills and all of those and the reviews and all those sorts of things. These are years in the making with hundreds of experts, thousands in some cases, depending on what particular part you're talking about. You've got the Digital Platform Services Inquiry. You've got all of this stuff that's being done by everyday, like by experts all day, every day, only for you to turn around and go, nah! to like assurance checks for minors. And it's like, well, okay, well, you've made yourself not worthy of listening to. Maybe you might have a point, but no one's going to listen to you because you're having a fit. And you're not like, I don't know, I feel like, and this isn't a civility argument, obviously being mad has its place, but I feel like the big act of rebellion right now, because everyone's angry, is to not be angry and to get control over your own emotions and to be pragmatic and calm and kind and help whoever you can as much as you can within your means. And that means both, you know, financially, physically, and emotionally, always within your means. And, you know, I think if we hold on, she'll hold. I think it'll be okay. I have to believe it's going to be okay, because otherwise I won't want to do anything. There's no motivation. I have to motivate myself by saying it's going to get better and I can change it. I can do something here to make things better. There is no point saying it's fucked and I'm going to fight, because you will, like, when it gets hard, this is the thing with activism as well, is with activists, they often show up, you know, in a moment when everyone's mad or whatever, like let's say Occupy or the Iraq War or whatever. They'll show up to the protest because they're mad, and they get high, you know, they get high on the like farts of all of the anger and rage and the protest and all that sort of stuff. But then they kind of fade out, because there needs to be something that motivates you during the losing times and the failing times, not just the stuff. It's easy to stay motivated when you're when you're winning or you're ahead, okay? It's really, really hard to stay optimistic when you're not. And this is a time when optimism is really important, because that will keep you motivated more, right? But yeah, so yeah, I'm obviously talking broadly about left and right and meeting people where they're at with the left and the right. Obviously, as a political scientist, I understand the granular detail to which this goes in the individual level and interacts with psychology and personality, as well as, you know, cultural factors and cross-cultural factors. I know all of this stuff. Okay. I'm just saying broadly left of centre and the right in terms of the ecosystem, the media ecosystem that's been created. But so people are very confused, and yeah, so people are very, very confused because they don't know their basic political spectrum. When I say that, I mean it as a means of meeting people where they're at, because that's the vernacular people use. I think that these things they're not even good models. They're terrible models. But yeah, so that's just the broad cams. I'm talking about the sort of left and right culture war shit, but I think a lot of people are just sick of it and realize that it's just factions of cyber bullies more than anything else. Like, I'm sure from your point of view, Val, you probably see, I don't know what area like you're in at the moment, but you know, from a cybersecurity point of view, it's just they're all cyber bullies and cyber harassment and cyber terrorists. It's just, yeah, it's the ideology is secondary to the like profile of the person that's doing it, right? It's they'd use religion or politics or fucking brands of clothes or anything. It's not the ideology that leads to the violence. It's the violence that hides behind ideology a lot of the time. Okay, sorry, I was just that fucking lag, man. Always assume that I like if I say something like annoyed, like if I look at it's not. Yeah, I look more annoyed than I am because I'm like thinking and on my feet and stuff. It's just I do that neurotic thing when I'm thinking, like with my exams. I've had to get I've gone through the learning support fucking place. I wasn't going to. I've never had to. But because they're using that ProctorU thing, the invigilated exams thing with ProctorU, where they track your eye movements and stuff for whether they think you're being suspicious and whatnot. And I have, I mask neurotypical and present somewhat neurotypical, but I also am very much not. And you can see that, like, sometimes that stuff, when I'm thinking or put on the spot, the mask slips a bit and I'm like, I look annoyed. It's not annoyed. It's me thinking on the fly and going, okay, recalibrating. Don't take it the wrong way. If I misspeak or am mean, it is never my intention, and I'll always I always feel bad if I've read something wrong. And also remember that on YouTube or on these things, anyone can, when it's someone it's different, but anyone can just show up and start talking, and it can escalate to threats pretty quickly if you and they just, it's just part of, you just don't, especially if you don't know who the person is, you're going to be more sort of on guard and stuff. It's really fucking hard, especially being my special brand of autistic and ADHD, trying to with chats and stuff, right? Proto-political. That's actually not bad. Yeah. Governance systems. Yeah. So, in the military, I would argue that being in the military is inherently ideological, but that's, that's what, see where you get into some, anyway. But it's just because I couldn't, I don't know how, I suppose I'd love to talk to you one day about that, how you reconcile that shit, because I've family in the military right now, and honestly, I don't want to face them. And everything that I've said today, I don't want to face them because of this Afghanistan and Israel stuff. I don't feel I can face them because I know what they believe. And I just, so I've got my own issues there around I just don't, there comes a point where the Gaza situation with me, it's just an Australian military where they have progressed and they served in Afghanistan and all of that stuff. And I just go, I can't be with next to this person. And I know that really, I'm ashamed of myself for feeling that way. But again, if I liked them more, it would be more easy to overcome. So it's not just that. Yeah. But mission. Yeah. And also you can't detach that from the material stuff either, which is that, the US military is way out of poverty for a lot of people, or it gives opportunity, free college for a lot of people, and free college, dental, healthcare, housing, the military provides for you, where your government, if you generally wouldn't, So no one's judging any of that choice. I just, obviously my own, I think that, again, it comes down to agency, I think, which is when you're young, you don't think about it and you go get your degree and do your service. I'm not going to blame anyone for getting their bag or their job or whatever. But I think once you're in a position, like with tech, once you're in a position where you can influence the outcomes of things, then that's where you kind of, I hold people to more of a, standard. So obviously your low level Facebook worker, content moderators and middle managers of a tech company. But if you're a product manager or a direct or a VP, or you are actively leading teams, and still just going along with it, that's where I think that, or police, for example, once you get to a certain level, and it's really hard because the nature of this stuff is that it grooms you over years. The military is a really good example of that, actually, Val. I'd love to talk to you about this stuff. Because I was too fat to join the military, so that's good for me. But when I did think about going, because military would have been my only real way to go to med school. Or law school when I was younger, and I did think about it, but I was too fucking fat. I only wanted to do officer training. But, like the thought's there. But over time, the culture of that place, it eroded. I don't know. That's why I just try to just not be part of things, because I know that I have it in me to like explain stuff away too. And I don't know. I feel like I got it so wrong with like tech and my like the falling into digital stuff. I got it so wrong that I don't trust my own. I don't trust myself anymore. That's how wrong I was about social media, right? I read that wrong and it went badly, and yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, I'll fucking stop waffling. I'm gonna go. It's fucking 60 people. I don't know who that is, but thank you, whoever you are. I appreciate you. If you want to talk offline, you can. I'm approachable and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I apologize for this being a less together thing. I think a lot of people are just drifting back and forth and sort of. I hoped he wouldn't win. Thought he might. I'm mad he did. And it changed. I have had some of the bad stuff confirmed. And like, I think that, I think a lot of people are just recalibrating how they help those that are most going to be affected by it. And I don't think the censorship is going to be going away anytime soon. But I do think that also things have a tendency to, you need equilibrium, you need a balance, and I think that things are just off. And so that's where we're hitting sort of unknown territory a little bit, because people, you could have a revolution. We don't know. I doubt it, but we could have a revolution. Could be a rent strike. There could be, general strikes. There could be all of these things. There could just be a bunch of everyone in the U.S. government who's still got their marbles goes no, and we don't know. We don't know. So it's going to be interesting. Elon Musk could still get arrested because he pisses off Trump, and Twitter gets seized. You don't know. See, that's a good thing, is that you go, the thing about not knowing and the uncertainty is that you're more open to what could happen. And some of them are pretty fucking hilarious scenarios. Think about that. Anyway, I'm going to go. I love you. Thank you for your precious 5 seconds, especially this one, because it's like fucking talking shit for like 2.5 hours. But I will be back on next Monday, and I will do something else. I'll have a little bit more to say, a bit more structured. So hopefully these new drugs will make me less waffly too. So, can't help that. It helps deal with my pain. So it's all good. Anyway, I love you. Take care. Thanks, Val. You rock. Bye.